trust on lies, and while they have each other's backs, you won't catch them at mine. Surely if you do, you'll come up short a dime. The six, they call themselves fearless, unafraid, a mangy pack of thieves, worth more gold than one trade. One does the thinking while the second does the talking, while the third is out walking to stalk their prey. The fourth does the sneaking, the fifth does the thieving, and the sixth is out drinking at the tavern all day. The six, in the town of Valley Deep, you don't go out at night. Not dragons one should fear, nor the creatures that bite. One must hold their weight in gold with all their might. Surely if you don't, it disappears in plain sight. The six have struck again, and all you did was blink. Might catch one if you run, or go out for a drink. One does the thinking while the second does the talking, while the third is out walking to stalk their prey. The fourth does the sneaking, the fifth does the thieving, and the sixth is out drinking at the tavern all day. The six, in the town of Valley Deep, the wanted poster swayed, and the local trades were always delayed. Then came a clever goblin who knew just what to do. Head down to the tavern and cook up a special brew. The six were unaware that goblin knew their game. He found the weakest link and put the six to shame. The sixth got sick drinking, and the fifth stood there blinking, while the fourth attempted healing the poison away. The last two caught an inkling when they saw the goblin winking. Now the six are all clinking behind barns all day. The six, the six. We saw a mountain, a curious mountain. We placed a bet on who could climb. As we ascended, this mountain rumbled, and neath our feet began to rise. And down we tumbled into the tall grass, looked up with terror in our eyes. It cast a shadow across the forest, looming lofty o'er the pines. Our people ran, and the strong survived the wrath of he who sends a tremor with a stride.
I am one, I am 100 voices in your head. With every twist and every turn, pulling every single thread. I may have 1,000 names, but in the end they're all the same. I play whatever role you need to guide your way. Welcome to the Matrix, where I am your god. It may be a simulation, but I ain't no fraud. I play your friend and your foe, design your joy and your woe. And if the red dress caught your eye, I'm doing something right. Welcome to my world. Let's see who comes out to play tonight.
Welcome everyone to For the Win.
Oh,
Yeah, we're
That feels wrong. That feels
I don't
wrong.
like it.
in a way we're going back to Martyria, but in retrospect, as a reflection, as tonight we are meeting up to dive into our campaign post-mortem, to use Scott's words, as a way of looking into where were we, what did we see, what did we love, what did we hate, what did we miss, and you had a chance to ask me all those questions that you didn't ask during the game because it just wasn't the time. So you know me, I'm your Dungeon Master Nic. We've got 4 wonderful people here, no longer as the characters you know and love them as. But go ahead, introduce yourselves. In whatever order you're going to do that.
Hi, I'm
Oh, wait,
Matilda.
we got to take it off of the just me mode.
Nope, just Nick the whole time. We
here
interrogate
we
him on camera.
Go ahead,
Does
Matilda.
work.
Hi, I'm Matilda, the character formerly known as Sitsu.
Scott, go.
I'm Scott. Used to play Rafen. Ruby.
Woe, go. No, Woe, go.
Well, hi, I'm Woe.
That is her real name.
What up, I'm Snash.
Name changed forever.
Hi,
And
I'm Ruby. I used to play Inyo. I'm back to Nick.
used to play Enyo. Okay, so, yeah, you played a campaign with me as your dungeon master. Thoughts? Questions? I don't know. Does someone want to kick this off with a question, with a comment, with... I don't really know. I'm not your MC tonight, so I'm officially handing the reins over to you all.
All right, first and foremost, which forebears and which primes? I need to know.
All right.
I think we all have this question.
Of course you do. Do you want to put your theories out there?
I don't think we have time for that.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I worked it out so that, well, so 7 was like very much the magic number of this campaign. It's all over the place in the heptarchy, in the 3 groups of 7, forebears, in like every fiber of the world. But for the 6 primes, I mean, balance, this 7th created prime that never was Halsa, Olthinius, and Xeris Day. But all of them like that had one member from each of the 3 factions. So knowledge was Tidra, Maven, and Satharine. Oblivion was Gilgoth, Amanul, and Haith. Life was Durelian, Malum, and Alarith. Death was Zavir, Ekash Mithra, and Bulrig. Order was Irem, Tauril, and Juris. And change was G, Orin, and Telk. And some of that you might be thinking, oh, but wouldn't this person fit just a little bit better with this? And in my explanation for that is the way that what they maybe originally stood for was distorted over time, as history changed the story of who they were, which was also a big part of our story, as you well know. But that's your 6 primes plus your bonus 7th.
Can you send that in a written?
Sure can.
He's gonna let us into the dock. He has.
I'll let you into the dock.
Ah!
Really?
Yeah, you can look into the dock. It's fine.
It's
Thanks
2.5
for the
pages
information.
long.
He's got a separate doc that he's not.
Can you imagine? There's nothing written
It says
down.
one thing and it just says "fuck it, I ball."
Yeah, there you go. Love that.
Okay, let's see what the
Sexy
the
question
formatting of that is terrible, but you know what?
Oh, we don't
That's
mind.
okay.
I'm not even gonna look at it because if I look at it, the whole stream is just gonna be me looking at my
Yeah,
computer.
I have to wait and read it later. But
Oh no,
Yeah.
I'm not sending that to you. I'm sending just
Oh.
the table.
Oh, thank
oh,
God.
okay.
Very kind of you, sir. Very kind. To
I
limit
mean,
us
you
for
could
now.
set poll.
thing.
Not eventually. Okay, so there you have it. The identities, the Pepe Sylvia of it all coming together with the web. The yarn can come down.
Did they all have classes?
I didn't envision them with classes because I didn't go that deep into like the backstory of who they were as mortals. But
Because I was
that would
like,
be interesting to dig into.
in our group chat, I was playing with the idea that like all the instigators were warlocks and like then paladins and clerics, depending on their alignment. But they were all like each prime would have one of each from the pickings.
Gotcha. No, I like that. That makes sense. I didn't go that deep with it, if I'm being perfectly honest.
I think we got to start over.
We
Yeah.
we dove pretty.
We
deep.
dove really deep in our like group chat theories.
There was a lot of theories going on. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of theories, were there any theories that the group had discussed and that they were spot on with, like way ahead of time?
Oh, I mean, like you all figured out like what an Arcanex was like, very quickly. That it was like a housing for a soul. A lot of the stuff that you were throwing around in the ruins the first time, like you were pretty spot on with that too. Like there were, let's see, like when you were theorizing about the gods and saying that you're like, oh well, that they were the lock. I mean, yeah, you're right, they were in a way. And I know like one of the things that you had said multiple times, Snash, was that like Martyria is an Arcanex, and it's not quite that, but it's kind of like, I guess the material plane became an Uber Arcanex, and that it perpetually housed all of the souls of mortal kind.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Was Enyo really Rafen's granddaughter?
Are you talking about like from like the same thread?
Yeah. Like, I didn't meet her in any other threads. So, was the
Yeah,
Enyo
yeah,
that
so-
I was with really Rafen's granddaughter?
Yes.
All right.
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't think about that.
Excellent.
We were really related. Oh my gosh.
Well, it's good. I mean, otherwise I would have felt like an ass chasing after you and then dying. So that's good.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
dying for no reason.
So in Martyria 2.0, in the reverse time version, why was Woe's mother and father set up to be her aunt and uncle instead of mother and father?
So the idea with the Martyria 2.0 is that it was a world that was like very close to your own, but with like thinking about like some of the ripple effect changes that would have occurred, and some of those were because you eliminated people by bringing them with you in Arcanex form. Like the reason the FAT didn't exist in this world is because Lemon never existed in this world because he was in that Arcanex.
Yep, that's how.
And as
That is
I
so cool.
didn't put that together.
yeah, and so because of that, then Orange by himself wouldn't have started this, and so it never came to be. And so like when the Herald was telling you like, well, you all did this, in some regard, some of those changes were because of that, but others I was thinking just like, okay, if something in history had gone a little bit different, how might that pan out? And for Woe's parents being, in this case, her aunt and uncle, I just wanted to kind of twist the knife for Snash a little bit.
So mean.
That you thought you got back parents, right, by coming back here, but they weren't
Nope.
your parents anymore. And I think it was just a way of highlighting that, like, that this world's as nice as some of the things might be, like the changes to Les Chauffeurs
It's
and
not
that your
ours.
parents are alive, it's not yours. Yeah.
You wanted to make sure that we didn't want to stay.
I would have been
Yeah,
fine staying.
there had to be enough wrong with it.
Mm.
What did the M's on people's eyelids mean?
So the M's
Isn't that memento
were
mori?
and mutatis mutandis. Yeah, so just like this idea of like these arcane phrases that nobody would know if they didn't know like the language of the forebears and whatnot. But like, yeah, these two ideas of remembering your mortality, but also the inevitability of change, which were like just these personal axioms that old Harold boy was motivated by.
Big
And
question.
menacing, right?
Big
Because also,
question.
what if they're W's upside down?
That's
Ooh.
One of them was
Memento
hanging, at
mori.
least.
Big question. What
Okay.
were some of the vast differences between our playthrough of Martyria and the first time you ran Martyria?
Okay, so great question. The first time I ran Martyria, like the opening adventure, like you're in Misty's and there's an attack, like that was pretty much the same in terms of setting things off with the first of these, like this first big brawl and murder, introduce you to the gangs, all that. But the ending was totally different. They went outside of the mortal plane and then just like went and kicked a bunch of gods' asses, because the gods in that version of Martyria were just the straight up 21 gods that I presented them with. The idea for the primes and like the way that they had, like the story of them had been lost and changed and distorted, that was for this campaign only. And so there was more emphasis on like certain factions. Like they were much more involved with some of the churches, like the Temple of Irem, and they spent more time in the Archaeology Guild. They like became members of it. Hold on one second.
What questions do we have for each other in regards to actions we took in certain situations? Do any of y'all have questions for each
I
other?
have questions. How long have you guys been wanting to play a rogue? Because I really wanted to play a rogue for this campaign.
That was my next choice as far as like going from like a solid fighter and then down to a rogue. That was my order of things. So I was always planning to play that as my next character one way or another.
I was just trying to branch out from my default of warlock. And rogue is pretty close.
We almost had 3 rogues.
Yeah, we almost oops all rogues.
We almost had 4 rogues.
That is true, because yeah. Oh man.
If you could have played anyone else's character, like if you would have gotten the sheets with the backstories, right? And if you could have chose anyone else's character to play, who would you have played? I know for a fact I would have picked Enyo's.
Really?
Yes, because I love like your backstory.
Oh, well, thanks. I actually would have picked Cyril's just because I would have been so chaotic with it. I would have run around and touched and done everything, and even more running ahead of everybody or casting illusions to say like, oh, I'm here. But no, I'm other outside the room picking something up that I probably shouldn't have touched. So when Cyril was with us, I was definitely wanting to play his character at times.
It's really hard for me to envision playing any of the characters that you all brought to life. Quite frankly, it's
Managing a crisis here. We've got a flood going on.
oh yeah.
no!
You're
Take your
good.
time.
Snowing
You're
is
fine.
looking. Hold on.
We're chatting amongst ourselves. I mean,
Real
just
life
from a
is fun.
pure class perspective, I probably would have chosen Cyril. I really like wizards, but not knowing the backstory, it would be really hard for me to have stepped into the characters that you guys have created.
I think I would have gone with Rayfin.
Yeah.
You just
The
was a good
memory
choice.
wipe.
Oh
The
yeah,
memory
Or-
wipe and the Oath of Vengeance.
lack of
aspect.
limbs. Yeah.
I like the stoicism too that you presented as Rayfin at the beginning, because that slowly cracked over time. And we saw more
Yeah.
and more as you were trying to remember and understand what had happened to your character.
So I'll say that was really difficult to come in. It sort of fit, right? But coming into a campaign midway through, not having a memory of a backstory for a character, but it was really hard at times because I really had no memory of the campaign. So, a lot of times I was just twiddling my thumbs trying
Was
to figure
method
out what the hell
acting?
was going on. Yeah.
100%. It was done beautifully, though. I mean, truthfully, it really was.
Well,
You
hopefully
did
it wasn't
awesome
too
stuff.
onerous.
I feel like that would be like the best way to come in instead of pretending like you know what's going on.
Yeah.
And not
You know?
having to try and study every single thing
Yeah.
that has happened so you can keep up with the story.
I watched a lot of the previous sessions, but Jesus Christ, it was
It's
so
a lot. It's a
It was
lot.
I think I came in, it was like 32 or something?
Yes.
yeah.
You came
Yeah.
in
Oh, no,
at,
no, no.
Like
23.
you came in at like the 6-month mark.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
halfway
It was
technically.
23. But that's 23 3+ hour sessions
Yeah.
to really get caught
Yeah.
up. Like, that
It's a
wasn't
lot.
gonna happen. Yeah.
Snash, I have a question.
All right.
How did you come up with the idea of Woe and this godlike figure that turned her to cannibalism? Like, how did that come about in your idea of your backstory? You know what I mean? Like, did Nick help you with that, or was that truly all you?
That
So
was
that-
so that was like everything. So I had Woe as a character, like I had played her previously, and she was fleshed out very similar to how I played her in Martyria. I played her for like a 10-session short campaign.
Mhm.
The whole god situation honestly only evolved because I wanted her to be like having a struggle
Mhm.
with trying not to be a cannibal, like that being her addiction.
And that was your choice among all the addictions. Cannibalism.
I was
That's what
like,
we're
I was
with.
like, what would be the funniest thing for a character to be recovering from?
I love it.
Eating people, like
Eating people, yeah. That's great.
you can't go wrong with that.
That's great.
Didn't recover very well for a while there.
Yeah, she just went full blown back because
And-
honestly, it didn't pay off to not be eating people.
Forced all of her friends to join
Right.
her briefly too.
Low key, yeah.
I'm really admiring the lengths of theatrics Nick is going to not answer our questions tonight.
Right?
No.
Pretty good.
He's really handily gotten out of this.
So okay, Sitsu then, or Matilda,
Oh, no.
with the fact that you and I both ended up playing rogues, right? I know you kind of went like death cleric in that way. What made you choose that decision? Like, not just because we were both playing rogues, but like start to become
We're
more of
all
the heal.
dying.
We needed a healer.
Okay, was it truly that? Because I know I didn't never
Yes.
get a chance to really ask you if it was like everybody fucking
I only
died.
have like one level in 2, I think, at the end in cleric.
Yeah, I
Um,
knew you'd put a lot in rogue.
I
at the end of
took
it.
that one level of cleric because we needed a healer, and the death cleric you get a better chance at it. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty much the reason. And it was the only other thing thematically that fit with Sitsu and the character and her like being this priestess and being like a devotee of death. That was the only other real thing that fit.
It fit really well. Like by the end of it, I kept thinking of her as cleric, not necessarily rogue, even though you were doing all sorts of rogue
She
stuff.
was rogue with
Totally
a
rogue.
very small dip into cleric
Yeah,
to try and keep you fuckers alive.
exactly. It was great.
That and the chalice really paid off a
That
lot.
was clutch. Yeah.
That we used that chalice a lot. was sad
All
when
right.
it died.
So speaking of the chalice, then out of all of the items that were reconstituted via Arcanex, which one personally did you love the most? And then which one do you think gave us the most value? Because the chalice, you got to admit, was one of the top ones in my opinion. If not,
I
the
think
top
as a
one.
group, the chalice had just maybe most value per use, because it definitely brought like everyone back from being
Mhm.
unconscious at least once.
multiple
I can
times.
attest.
But
I really quite enjoyed the Arcan IX that Nick created by me stuffing it in. The chaos kind of wild magic rolling on that was hysterical, and always having detect magic up was pretty handy. So I don't think we would have gotten through the puzzle in the temple where the big machine and we were seeing the celestial different configurations on the ceiling. Like if I hadn't looked up with that eye on, I don't think we would have ever seen that. Right?
yeah, probably not.
Yeah, but that was just fun. It was fun never knowing, like, am I going to cast a fireball on myself by casting this spell? Yeah, it was amusing.
I will say I really enjoyed Sitsu's scythe. Isn't that what it was?
Crescent Tide was my
Crescent Tide.
favorite
Crescent
one
Tide,
to
'cause,
use.
like as a
virtually.
weapon, that was great. I will say like the dagger that Inya received was nice at times, but I don't think I was able to utilize it to its full potential. I will say in the ending fight, the armor that she had, that was really fun because anytime I got like even a little bit touched, it was like an bite, and I appreciated that near the end. But
So
yeah,
I
Crescent
had
Tide.
the armor that I got from the antique shop had a really cool effect on it that literally I never got to use once. So it was called the Slaver's Plate. And if there was a creature who tried to move out of range attack from me that was no more than one size larger than me, I could invoke a reaction to cast chains would come out and actually grapple the creature as it tried to move away. And it literally never came up one time because all the fights we had at the end were with these giant fucking creatures that were
Giant
too
things.
big.
Yeah.
Like, God damn it, never happened once.
The armor I found was pretty cool, but it kind of just stayed in the background for a while. It gave Sitsu like an extra reaction. It also made it so that people couldn't crit against her, which was nice.
Nice.
For Woe, did that necklace that we ended up giving to Rayfin actually help?
It was
remember
It was an AC bonus, but it
when
got
he
left
had
in the
it,
pit.
it was a huge help because my AC was 16
Mhm.
with my armor and everything else on, but with the charm with the necklace, it was 18.
Oh,
And
nice.
as soon as that was gone, I was like
getting hit.
left, right.
Back to being a glass cannon.
I was always a glass cannon, even with 18 AC. Like it was just given, but it was
helped,
really
okay.
helpful.
Wait, when did you guys lose that? I wasn't
When
there. Obviously.
it was
on
on
my
the
arm.
arm that got
Oh,
cut off when
no.
he died.
Yeah.
That figures.
I will say the items that I got via Arcanex were not like prevalent in like usage in the game, but they were utilized because I had the How to Train Your Familiar
Mhm.
and I had the Robes of the Mentor, which both of those items were 100% just to utilize Gobblefunk to his full potential. Which allowed me to do like range casting through him instead of just touch casting.
Yeah.
He was way beefier in his stats because of it. That's why he had the highest intelligence out of the group.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I would have loved to act when he kind of evolved into his final form.
Oh,
I would have loved
Mega.
to have seen him. Yeah, Mega Gobble. I would have loved to have seen him in a couple of those last fights.
I briefly glanced at the stats of that and I did not want to look at it anymore because I did not want to be dissuaded from the thing that I had already chosen.
Oh, what you did was perfect. It was great. But it was I was like, oh, Gobble's really powered up.
Yeah.
We'll have to see if we can bring Mega Gobble into a one shot.
Yeah.
And oops, all gobbles versus each other. That would be fun.
Well, we're getting close to Ruby having to run something again.
What? No.
We
hold
got
on,
20 subs to go on YouTube before your next
Oh,
one
yeah.
shot.
Shit, I'll have to flush that out too. No. I'll flush out Word Guard first, and then I'll flush that out.
We get
It's going to be really
see
fun, by the way. If I
Lyra
can get it all set
again.
up. It's going to be really fun if it works out, truthfully, because I really think it's a really cute, fun idea that I've come up with for the next one. So I hope you guys will like it.
Scott's
So.
gotta join the Umbrella Academy family.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in.
Oh, yeah, that. I love how you said that.
We actually
Oh,
finally
yeah.
play Bunk.
Mm-hmm.
That character.
We're back just been sitting in Foundry, just waiting for you until we're just
Patiently.
waiting. Mm-hmm.
So
I do think I have to level you guys up, though.
How did the tone of the campaign shift with Cyril's exit? Or did it? Was it exactly the same afterwards?
Got a lot more sad.
Yeah. I think that was also just a story turning point, too. It was, even with Cyril still there, it would have gotten a lot more sad.
Well, yeah, it was right after such a big calamity, in a sense, had happened. I know, just like as a character and as a player, I was quite saddened over them not being able to join us anymore. But I was very happy when you joined, and I was like, it feels like, you know, there's going to be more. There's going to be a new balance that we're getting into. I mean, it took us a session or two to get into it, but you fit in quite well with no problems. But it became sadder and more serious, and it was really we were in a time limit. All of the Martyria 2.0, you know, there was a time limit, there was a crunch of what had to get done. And even though we were still trying to figure shit out, which you got to admit, we were still always trying to figure shit out, we were pushing ourselves even more. I mean, if we were to realistically look at it, we weren't in 2.0 that long. Like, we were there maybe a couple of weeks, whereas in Martyria before, I'd felt like we'd been in there, you know, a longer time frame.
I think
Running
in-game
around.
time, it was less than a week, right? Start to
Yeah.
finish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that we lost a sort of a chunk of our shenanigans when we lost Cyril.
Yeah. Oh, poor Nick.
We may have just lost Nick.
We might have lost Nick for the stream tonight, guys. We'll have to see
We'll
if
have
he
to
comes
see.
back.
What other questions might we have, though, for each other throughout the campaign? I mean, like thoughts that we thought about when certain things were happening.
Was Enyo always supposed to be a vampire? Or was
Yeah.
that a later addition?
No, that was something Nick and I had discussed from the beginning. That her, based on what had happened to her when she was young. You remember the scene where she was, like, we discussed how she was rescued from people that were basically trying to make her slaves off the streets, or like a slave off the street. That whole scene where Seraphis, as the Raven, saves her. That was like one of her core memories, in a sense, from her childhood that she carried throughout into her adulthood, that she was always striving towards that goal. So you could say that was a core foundation for her from the beginning. When it finally happened, though, Inyo, like, it was an exhilarating thing, but then so much just collapsed that by the time it got to where she was truly dying and then going to come back as a human, she was like, it's fine now. With all the bullshit that's going on,
This is fine.
This is fine. You know, it's not, you know, it was just like, this is actually better, truthfully. Like, the choices that were made, you know, it's where it's hindsight's 2020. You know, she was like, this could have been something that would have been amazing, but it's not actually in the cards, and it's better that I'm returning back to what I was. So, yeah.
If you guys could go back and change some choices that you made, what would they be? Like, was there anything that you did or didn't do that you would change if you were to play again?
So I was only there for half, but I did have kind of a decision early on, and that was whether or not to be with the party or against the party. Nick kind of set up the character with a mandate to actually sabotage and even try to kill the party. I had kind of a hard time with that because I thought, well, that would be fun to explore, but I don't want to be the guy that fucks up this game for everybody else.
You're like, I don't want to
You
join
come
this
in-
group and kill them and then they kick me out.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I just got here, and I'm not going to shiv somebody in the night. So that I had to kind of work through that with the character, and it'd be interesting to see when it went in that direction. Obviously, I think Nick would have put some guardrails on it to make sure that I wasn't just sabotaging the group, but to be sort of the immediate enemy of the group would have been interesting.
I do think it would have been fun to play through with more of a villains aspect. Like, let change convince you. Let's see what happens with Martyria.
Right. There's like one main thing is, what if Inyo hadn't killed Infinity and we had time to actually find Misty? Because she was down there. Remember that?
I want to know what the deal with Misty was.
I did
Like
want to
what
know
we
that as
missed. What we missed with her. Was her son in the OG Arcanex in Martyria 1? Is that why?
I just want to know why the fuck she had. Well, we kind of
Well,
know why she had it.
My
But
also
there was
thing
so
was,
much
what if
more
I
to
had
that.
shattered the because there were a couple of
One of
times
my
where I
questions,
was
too.
Where
I
we
was
wanted to
tempted to
use
just
it.
like use
Yeah.
it, or honestly just like fucking shatter it on the stones on the
Would-
street
would the
just to see
herald
what
have
would fucking
died?
happen. Yeah, there's so many times where it's like, I have it, I could just chunk it at something and see what happens.
Because it was sort of like a kill switch for the Herald at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just, once it was broken, he died.
But I feel like it was a proximity thing.
That too.
It might have been, but we were certainly
Well, and
close to
also
the Herald
at
other
the
times.
at the very beginning when what's his name, Alistair died,
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Out the
because
window.
he was not just one soul. There was something weird with him too.
Alistair was very different. He was in charge of the one of the gangs. He was like one of the head honchos of was the Ravagers or the what was the
He
other one?
was the Syndicate.
He was Syndicate.
The Syndicate. Yeah.
So was he in the potion shop when we went in and cleared out? There was a somebody that
Yeah.
had no soul,
Yeah.
right? Was that him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in
Yeah.
2.0, Cyril was also part of the Syndicate in that
He
way.
was the leader.
He was the
in
leader, and he
2.0.
died because he's
And
the one that passed.
He
He replaced.
They like swap positions.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in the in the beginning of the campaign, when we were at Misty's, like investigating the fight, Nick made a point of like Sitsu could tell that there was this horrible energy coming off of the body or where the body was, and it was this jumble of like pieces of souls or whatever. Like what was Alistair? I want to know.
If I could go back and do something over, I would have a Erdan
Oh
on
yes.
the wall
Thank you.
in
Oh, I so
Martyria
wish you had.
1.0.
God.
That was
Instead of
Woe
just
trying to be
breaking
a good
up with him?
person. Yeah, Woe was just trying to be a good person back then. If it was Woe from 2.0,
Mhm.
she would have ate that dude right away.
Mhm.
She would have been like, yeah, whatever.
I will say the one thing I do think about is if I had never accepted, and I know that I would have inadvertently had to accept something, but I did accept the first deal that Change tried to give us and he
Yes.
died. What if I had not accepted anything? I mean, I think my character would have probably passed away because I know we did have backup characters at the time.
So Nick did let us into that we all passed our death saving throws through that, and none of us had to make none
deal?
of us technically had to make a deal with Change during that. The only person who died during that was Lyle.
Oh, he actually actively died.
Nick told us he was the only one who failed his throws.
Wow. Yeah, I did think about that. Like, what would have really happened?
None of us had to do what we did. We were all just so psyched out, and we were so scared that we were gonna die.
Yeah, that's true. We were
Next campaign, we gotta just
Balls
come
to
in.
the wall.
Balls to the wall.
Call him on his bullshit.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let my
Call his
let
bluff,
the
let our
little guy get in
characters
there.
die. It's fine.
Yeah. That episode was very nerve-wracking
It
because there
was.
was
Yeah.
nothing more scary than the silence of not being there. And then when you're by yourself, you're like, I have no one to like look to
Yeah.
like bounce off of. It was very like I was like, my character's gonna die. My character's gonna die. My character. This is it.
And
I'm
just
done.
like being able to see the reactions but not know
Mm.
what was happening.
yeah.
Yeah, it was.
That's one of those things that one advantage of playing online is you can do shit like that really easily.
Mhm.
Mm.
It's nice.
Oh,
Oh.
so when I had to leave for multiple different reasons, Inyo had provided you guys that letter. If it hadn't worked out time-wise that I wasn't able to come back, Nick would have taken Inyo and Inyo would have fully joined the Herald and there would have been no going back. I didn't know if you guys, I think you guys had a good idea.
Feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was we had a full discussion, we like had multiple chat conversations about how that would work out. And it was, yeah, I was back and forth constantly on that for the longest time. Of like, will I actually get able to come back? Will it time work out? It did work out, which was great.
We are
I
really
was
glad
happy
it
to.
did. Yeah.
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 But it was something I was like, ooh, I need to plan this out correctly so it doesn't completely destroy everybody if it happens. I did think you guys would have called the Herald though and used that rock. I was wondering if y'all were ever going to do that, but I don't think you guys ever did.
We never did. No, we never.
I
and
didn't really get a
Well,
chance.
Yeah, there wasn't an
Technically,
opportunity.
Enyo was only gone for like a day, like a
Yeah.
literal day. Not even like it was like, yeah, less than 24 hours that Enyo was technically separated from the party. So it wasn't like stuff happened, but it wasn't like a lot.
And that's again why it worked out so well that I was able to come back in, because truly like it hadn't been like a week. Time hadn't like passed by. Time passed by. It seemed very fast, but truthfully we were in very
And
confined
this
amount of time.
whole game was like we played for a year, but it was all played in a very short
It was like 3 weeks.
time frame.
right?
It was like
Yeah.
less than a month of in-game time.
Yeah.
I'm
the
used
whole-
to like normally playing, it's usually there's a long rest per game,
Mhm.
typically, unless you're doing like
Well,
traveling.
right, and oftentimes there's a good period of time that can pass within a single session. So, okay, you're going to spend a week in this town. Tell me what you did. What were you up to? You know, things like that.
Yeah, we never did that with Martyria. And it
No.
being like a city, it felt like, with it being a city, that's where I felt like we were constantly needing to keep going.
Well,
And
it always
opinion.
felt like there was an hourglass that was running.
Yeah.
Right?
And it made you panicky
Oh,
about
yeah.
like, let's get this done. Let's do this, which I really enjoyed that. Really.
That pressure.
Yeah.
I like it because sometimes, especially like super sandlotty campaign regions, like the little bit of railroading is nice because it can feel directionless and like, well,
Sure.
It's
I
like,
don't know.
no, we don't have time to go do all this other little stuff and level up before we go see this person. We have to go now.
Yeah.
Like,
or half
Like,
the city's gonna
the
snap
world will
their necks
collapse.
again.
There's a
Yeah.
bomb that's going to go off. right?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Especially in 2.0, that was constant pressure, I think, in everyone's mind is the bomb. We already know it went off once. It is going to go off again. We need to be ready. We need to fix this before that happens. Fix the
Yeah.
bullshit.
You know, that's a great question for Nick, though. Like, was there a second bomb event that was going to occur if we didn't intervene?
I think it
Like-
would have been the lock.
Mhm.
Yeah,
which would have been the
blessing.
release of the primes and the 21.
Yeah.
Finally, like collapsing, right? Wasn't that the final thing?
Yeah,
would
because
fully
it was
shatter?
it was real close when we got to the end.
Yeah,
I think it would have been the lock breaking.
yeah.
Mm.
Which, I mean, did everybody in Martyria die again because they all went into the light?
no, we saved it.
So the
Oh,
people.
we saved the city, but everybody that went into the light, are they now dead?
My impression of the light is that those were people from our true world that had passed, that were already gone.
Well, but we
Like, from
watched
our
a whole
No,
bunch of.
everybody was converging on the marketplace.
Yeah, we watched them all
and
walk into it.
step into the
Oh,
light.
that light.
I
That
remember
light.
that,
I'm
and
sorry.
the city was empty when we actually started to go. Toward
Maybe
the
just
marketplace.
this thread died.
So what
Remember, there were a lot of threads.
what I interpreted that as was because of opportunity, right? He was keeping people from cycling correctly. And because we went ahead and we blocked that off again, what I was interpreting was the space that we were in and the people we were talking to were stuck in that space. Does that make sense?
Like
Yeah.
that was their afterlife already, in
Yes.
a sense. But it was. Would you classify it as a peaceful place? That's why I wanted to ask Nick. Is like, was that technically
I thought it was more like a limbo.
Yeah.
like a limbo?
Like
yeah.
they didn't get to go one way or another. They were stuck because of everything that was going on.
But if after speaking with us, do you think they were still stuck or were they gone?
Here's the man with the answers.
Oh, you're muted.
Oh, wait, we can't hear you,
yeah, we
Nick.
can't hear you, Nick.
Give him a moment.
It's okay.
Guys.
Take your time.
Take a
this
breath.
Is, this is the tease. He has to mime all the answers to us now.
Oh God, we're never gonna figure it out.
Not that one, hun.
Oh, nope.
Wait, you're kind of there.
Oh,
That's okay. He'll reset. He'll reset. It'll be
He's,
fine.
you're right, Scott. He's gone to a lot of lengths to avoid answering.
Right? Seriously.
Come on now.
He's still trying to hide the fact that he made all this shit up.
This was
moment.
improv the
It's
whole
total,
time.
Total improv.
Okay, that is what I want to ask him. I want to ask, like, there were certain moments where any of us were doing something
Oh.
that, like,
Hear me now?
Yeah.
Man,
how much did that throw Nick off? Like when we would do something and then he'd have to plan 10 other things in advance because
That's
we
one
like
of my
completely
questions,
derailed.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
So, everybody, I want to apologize. Obviously, not something I could control, but there was a plumbing issue above us. We thought it was the rain, not the rain,
Oh dear.
which is, I guess, good because then that would have meant every time it rains we were going to be absolutely boned. But everything's under control. I don't think anything is ruined.
Good.
So-
Good. Leaking sucks.
Oh my god.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
doing great.
All good.
Yeah,
well,
okay.
you'll have
So-
to watch it back to see, how we filled the time.
Well, oh yeah, for sure. And I imagine that there were some questions that you posed within that time that I'm happy to answer. But the last thing I know I was talking about was the difference between the two campaigns in Martyria. This was a lot longer of a campaign. Theirs was shorter in the. I think we played 9 months, but we also only played 2-hour sessions. So we really played less than half of the amount of time that we really did in Martyria. And the origin of it wasn't even called the Herald was totally different. They never left the city walls at all. So like the shimmer and all of that was totally new for this. And yeah, their ending was much less grand and more like, all right, and you go back to your lives.
Did you make
such.
them cry? Or was that just us?
I think there were moments of like tenderness and tension, but I think I didn't have the make your players cry skills at that point in my DMing.
Honing and sharpening.
You
Oh,
were
yeah.
working on that. You went to a conference for that.
But also like you all crafted such like characters that you gave me so much to work with. And not to say that those other players didn't in their own way, but a lot of them, it was their first time ever playing D&D. And it started as 4 people. It grew to 7 people by the end of things. They spent a bit more time in Asher Heights, which was a neighborhood we didn't really explore outside of the one space.
Mhm.
But overall, it certainly wasn't the same story. It wasn't the same game, but there were like some carryovers. Like Erdan, for example, that was one of the players' PCs.
Oh.
He wasn't characterized like that at all, but as this like
Fucking
whiny
love
little simp.
that.
But you know,
Shame him well.
but he was like this like junior cadet for the the knights.
That is one of my questions. Was Eridan meant to be a major NPC, or was he just like
No,
someone
oh,
on
no.
the side and he just developed?
No,
in the moment.
there was a knight that was going to be at the bar. I didn't have a name prepared, so I just defaulted to the one name that I had,
you
like
already had.
stored away. I was like, oh, that's Erdan.
I want to listen to your other game now to hear our names.
Yeah.
In NPC.
Haven't done it.
Oh, one day.
Oh.
Oh, we did ask. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say we asked each other what character you wanted to play out of all the characters we created. Which one would you have wanted to step in? So, Nick, out of all of the player characters, is there one
Like you're handed
particular
a sheet with the backstory.
backstory,
Yeah, okay.
everything?
So, backstory and everything, and like starting from square one.
Yeah, starting
In
from
Misty's
session one.
Tavern, yeah, Misty's Tavern, and everything.
I think it would have had to have been probably Woe, because I don't love rogues. If I'm being honest, I think they're a boring class, and
Nice.
so I don't think I would have. The backstories were very rich and engaging, and I would have enjoyed the role playing aspect of it, but I don't know. I think warlocks are just so freaking cool. Cyril, in terms of like mechanically, I love a wizard. Cyril's backstory was very light, especially compared to the rest of you. Like Alex didn't really build as much into the game. He was much more about wanting to explore what was already there. So yeah, probably Woe, especially because she was like just so normal and then not normal. And I like that idea of almost like an isekai where you're just this normal person, then you make a pact and now you're thrust into this world of chaos.
Oh, we talked about
Oops,
that
now
too.
I hate people.
Now she's a
Oh.
recovering people eater. Whoopsie.
What
All right.
were we talking about right before Nick jumped on? Because that was something.
I
heard something about the-
between spaces
Oh, okay.
and the people who went up to the light. What happened
Yeah.
to them?
And so, whoa, I heard like or Snash, I heard the tail end of what you were saying. The idea was, yes, it was this liminal space where they're not moving to any of the planes where they would normally go when they die. So this is where they end up, and it's a form of I guess afterlife, but it's
Like limbo?
yeah, for sure, and it's this.
Purgatory.
Yeah, and I like the idea that if opportunity favored you, then maybe you would get a glimpse of some form of your version of paradise, like Rafen had momentarily when he died the first time. But those who went up into the lights, that was them like literally like moving to like pierce the barrier between the worlds. So those who entered, I think we can leave that ambiguous and open to the interpretation of the player. Did they live? Did they die? And at the very least, you know that some versions of them lived and some versions of them died.
True.
What did we miss in the Grey Keep?
You missed Misty. I mean, she was there.
You missed Misty.
So you
How many
definitely
times have we
could
missed Misty throughout this
Every
whole
That was-
game?
that was something
every
else we talked
single
about.
time.
We
Mm.
never got closure on Misty. Like we never
No.
What? Yeah,
really
can
got
you
to know her
explain
story.
her story, her side, her.
Yeah, so Misty in the OG version, the original thread, like it was was a nightbird, right? She was one of the five, one of the like the newest ones, and largely because of what happened with her son, and becoming the apostasy from Le Chauffin, and so she stumbled upon the Arcanex by accident, basically, because Kivas was sloppy with it. Came into her possession. She recognized that it was something important, just like you all did, and tucked it away in as safe a place as she could think. But it wasn't there long, because then we have the attack, and so Misty in that like second time rounds Calvin was alive because she had him later in life, and Le Chauffin wasn't opposed to the idea of, like having children outside of all this. But Misty still left because she decided she just wanted to live a more normal life outside of the duties and the responsibilities of Le Chauffin, and just like have a business and a family in the more traditional sense. But Misty could have given you more insight about like the Nightbirds earlier in that first. I think I consider it like the first half, I guess, since we had the two Martyrias.
What was the significance with Alistair and his like death not being?
Okay, so that's one of the things that I fucked up because I forgot that you had the soul token of Alistair. So he shouldn't have been in the second version of Martyria. That was a total.
That makes so much more sense.
Okay.
And as soon as you brought that back up, I was like, no, I botched this.
But in the first Martyria, when he did die, you mentioned that like it didn't feel like a normal soul. It felt like there were a lot of
so that was something. And that was like just all of the death clinging to him. And this was something like I wasn't prepared for the soul tokens in session 1 or session 2 or whatever. So if I had, so that was me just like, I have to like go with this sort of thing. I was trying to show that just like what kind of a person you had dealt with, and thus the significance of his death to various parties. And that's, I think, one area that we didn't really get into was the syndicate, that I think would have been, that the other group did dive a bit more into, in terms of the leaders. You drifted a bit more Reaper side, which is perfectly reasonable and fine. But like, we knew that the syndicate was there, but they were kind of peripheral in our campaign.
So what would the campaign have been if the group had chosen the other door?
To go beyond.
Right.
So to go beyond would have been, and potentially this could have been the longer version. It could have been, because I didn't have as much planned out for that. That was going to be a, but it would have been a drastically different game, because you would not have been in the city anymore. You would have been in like kind of plane hopping from the different realms of the primes, and it would have been a more like cosmic scale war rather than a we got to shut this shit down race against the clock that you guys ended up participating in, and that was more similar to what that first group that I played with did. They ended up going to, but I hadn't really fleshed out those plates that much when I played with that group. But yeah, would have been very different.
How would you have introduced Rafin in that scenario?
Oh, Rafin would have been, and I didn't have to put a whole lot of thought into it, because I, like Ruby said earlier, or I caught you saying that, like, my job is you guys do something, and then I've got to really react and spend the time in between sessions figuring out, okay, where do I go from here? How do I make this make sense and fit with the narrative? How does this shift the narrative that I had was thinking of? So Rafin, I mean, I would have talked with you, Scott, about like where Rafin, in terms of death, where would he have landed by his assessment of things in this, like, shadowy purgatory, and more of this, maybe he somehow broke free from the the mortal bonds of everybody else in Martyria and was able to like get true death. And I don't know. It would have been, again, for Raven, vastly different.
So this is a question. I did a lot of rewatching of stuff recently.
Okay.
In the session that Raven was introduced to the group, he had a conversation with Gobblefunk. And in that conversation with Gobblefunk mentioned, like, he didn't know, maybe he was like us at one point.
Yeah.
Was Gobblefunk being a person, like having a soul, being a normal person who was like transformed into this demon? Was that planned or did that develop?
I always had that idea that like the imps and the various servants of the hells were at one point mortals that were twisted and battered and broken into the subservient roles that they played. And so I always thought of Gobblefunk as having previously been mortal, but millennia or eons ago, to the point where he would have no knowledge or recollection of who he was. But maybe that feeling deep down that all of this is vaguely familiar, and I think maybe that was me once.
Would the Herald have died if we broke the OG earlier?
If you had broke the OG earlier, earlier when?
What if Inuit had
You
shattered
would
it
have
in
had
the
a
first session?
You wouldn't have been able to.
Okay. So like the first Martyria, if
you
Inuit tried
didn't-
to break it.
You didn't have the magical means to do it at that point, until you got these magically imbued weapons that were capable of doing that. And so if you had just said we're breaking this shit like 3 sessions back, then yeah, that would have unleashed this amalgam of shit earlier, and that would have altered what those last couple of days or that last day in Martyria would have looked like.
Would it have ever worked to use the OG on an item?
Yes, absolutely.
And then the item would be super buffed or normal buffed?
So if you had used it on an item, it would not have broken, and it would not have been diminished. You could have been using that over and over again. But my plan was that if you ever did that, then any item you use that on would fail you in the fights against their
Oh, that's so cool.
That makes a lot of sense.
We never wanted to risk it.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense.
Oh, but we could have just
protected. Yeah. We
You
had
could have
so
just been
much
like,
shit we could've
fireball,
brought.
fireball.
Oh my
Using it on
God.
spells without it diminishing would have been so
Oh
OP.
my God, that would have been so much fun.
But if you had done that, much how Rafen, by putting into his head, like it became part of him and was feeding off of his life force, it would have ended up doing the same to you, but maybe less immediately obvious what was
Less
happening.
pussy.
Oh, we love a pussy eye.
Speaking of Arcanexes, at one point, Woe did want to ask Order how to create Arcanexes. Would that have been possible? Would he have shared that information with her? And what would have been the moral implications if the group started killing people
Making
for
Arcanexes.
Arcanexes?
So if you all had, you would have become the villains essentially.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
I would be like the Nightbirds would be coming for you. I'd hit you with my own team of adventurers. But if you had asked Order how to make an Arcanex, he would have asked you to what ends, what you were planning, what your intent was.
Just because I want to hang out with him.
Because you just want to hang out with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you would have got like a version of how to make an Arcanex, sure.
Probably not the
Maybe
best
not
versions.
immediately. Like you would have had to do something
Would we have been able to?
to create an Arcanex.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not exactly. Like so, the Arcanexes that you found in the ruins.
Would we have to use the dig site? Like use the sacrificial slab and
That would probably be the easiest way once the methods were revealed to you. But we could have also, I imagine,
We were
ordered
watching-
powerful enough to do something to make another avenue for that for you.
We're watching the Shrieking Sisters like sacrifice, presumably
Yeah.
to make
In the grove.
Arcanexes. Yeah.
Yeah. So at some like nexus of magical concentration, whether that be the nature of the grove or the arcane of this of the ruins, or the divine of some sacred site, some temple. But that, yeah, if you had pursued that route, that would have been interesting and certainly a different campaign.
were the ruins always rigged to self-destruct so that we couldn't spend time down there?
Yeah, like they were always going to start crashing around you,
Okay.
because I think like if you're in ruins in a underground, like they've got to start coming down.
So in the ruins with the door that Inyo found in 2.0,
Yeah.
in the first thread,
Yeah.
was he doing the exact same thing that he is doing in the second thread, Cavis Rainier?
So like in terms of like did Kivas torture Caspian and the Shimmer?
Right.
And
Did he torture and do the Shimmer, and then was he constantly still trying to bring his wife back? Like if Inyo had realized that was there and tried to somehow open it in the first thread, would she have in a sense discovered kind of the same like lab and stuff?
I don't think that you would have been able to open that door. Now, had you gone the other direction, that like not from the ruins but from Bright Harbor, then you
Yeah.
probably could have made that trek.
Well, what about
but-
Asher Heights then? Like when we were there and you completed the ritual, if we had decided to explore the grounds and go into the house, would there have been a chance for us to have found him?
Found Kivas, yeah.
Yeah.
For
Would
sure.
he-
But also Kivas was in recognizing the shit that's going on in the city is because of him, was not making a lot of public appearances. So
No.
like cloistering himself largely in the Grey Keep, which if you had gone through any of those other doors that you didn't go through in the Grey Keep, then that would have been other adventures to be had. You could have assassinated some heptarchs or filled
So-
your pockets with so much gold.
He was hiding out from his son, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But was he still
Oh, yeah.
trying to bring back his wife as he had done in the second thread?
So at that point he lacked the means to do so, and was, I think, at the point where, especially having done what he did to Caspian, it just proved that he was in way over his head. And
But he kind of broke before, right? After
Yeah,
Caspian
yeah.
and all that shit. He just kind of broke down and just didn't pursue anything additionally because, I mean, the hand was still there where, yeah, okay. That's fine. Keep going.
We want to speak about the Hand of Telk. So is that what he used to create the Herald, correct?
yeah, that in part.
Okay.
So there was also a black liquid. Was that G blood?
That wasn't. Like for in the. I wasn't thinking of it as G's blood, but like in terms of like the making of the heralds, I think like that was just this like substance that was created from like the this confluence of the humanoid and the shimmer in this like in trying to recreate their regenerative power, he created a reverse of that. This like constantly necrotizing agents, and was like using that plus the epimorphosis plus the magic of the hand blood and all that, and just like dealing with things he didn't understand, and just throwing shit together to see what was going to work, and created something that he wasn't trying to create, and failing miserably at doing what he was trying to do.
Would there have been any hope for us to save Caspian at any point during the campaign?
I mean, I think if you knew who he was sooner and like used that and like formed a plan to to reach that part of him and to try to in some way separate him from this tangled set of souls, half souls, then yeah, I mean, if that was the course that you wanted to pursue, absolutely that would have been possible.
Could have saved him. Well,
Love could have saved all of it.
No.
Enyo, you could have saved him.
No.
he could have had a redemption arc.
You still
Redemption
understand.
arc, no end of the world.
He would
didn't
have still had to die.
That goes to
Enyo
my
would have
next
still
question.
probably wanted
Did
to
we
kill
have
him.
to die? Was that always a thing?
No, but I don't think I would have given you the satisfaction of like, oh, love saved Caspian, now
yeah,
it's
no.
happily ever after.
I would
We
be
were
very
never
horrified.
gonna get a
He's a
happy
bad
ending.
guy.
in this
He's
campaign.
gotta pay.
He's a bad guy. He was always bad.
He could still be bad, but he could be bad in a good way.
No,
Oh,
he was
bad
never
boy.
bad in a good way. No.
Oh, did you write Caspian prior to Enyo's backstory? Or
No.
did you write him after Enyo's backstory?
I chose
Enyo
Caspian.
wrote Caspian
I
in
chose
terms
Caspian.
of yeah. So Kivas didn't have a son in my initial imagining of things, or well, he did, but Metis died in childbirth, and so did the child. But when Enyo was like, oh well, his son Caspian is one of my best friends, I'm like, okay, well then let's work with that. So like my original workings of it was still trying to bring back his wife, but it's using the Dragonborns as the secret sauce, the secret ingredient to do so, because they were expendable and easy to acquire, and he's a bad dude.
So Enyo chose Caspian as her best friend and his son. Did you come up with the Caspian murdering her family story, or did she?
So I did, because I asked Enyo, is it okay? I said, what do you think about, or asked Ruby, what do you think about Enyo not knowing everything that happened in her past? Like, what
We
about
had a good conversation about that, and I was very just like, that's fine, because I knew at the core of what she was. Like, I told you about the vampire thing. Like, that was going to be one of her core pieces of her. It surprised me, but I rolled with it 100%. I gave Nick a lot of freedom.
Which, yeah, you all did. And yeah, because I think what I asked is it okay if Enyo, the way she remembers things happening isn't exactly true?
Correct, yeah.
Which is like a big theme of the whole campaign. The way we remember things is not always 100% true. Like with all the rumors I gave you, in each of those there was like some seed of the truth.
I love those. Oh my
Those
god.
were fun. Oh my god, mutes herself.
She's got something. She's going down a rabbit hole.
Pulling up something here.
I did want to ask Nick, because I already asked the others personally as the Dungeon Master, what was your favorite item that you ended up like giving us, or that we activated out of all the items?
I think we talked about this when we did our last chat, like with like the preview for Weird Guard, but it was super simple. But I think narratively it was the chalice because of what you all did with it. and the importance that it had in the lore building and the woe saving and all that good stuff.
The woe saving. Yeah.
The woe saving.
That's great. No, we all agreed that one was the most impactful out of all of the items.
I'm popping my rumors into the group chat.
I pulled up mine. I was gonna ask what.
So, or I can read some of mine.
Go for it.
What was mine? The one that I was really interested in right off the bat, and I was asking questions about very early in the campaign, was the Syndicate's Moro family are vampires or werewolves or ghosts. Account differs. So I was like, oh, we got vampires, we got werewolves in this game, and then with Ruby going like vampire route, I was so happy because I was so excited about that one.
Oh yeah, no, that was like a perfect detail from her. So the kernel of truth in that is not even that there's these like vampire-like creatures there. It's that the Moros are changelings, and you met one of them in the Great Keep, but you never like that interaction was so brief and so chaotic.
That
but
one, like, oh my god,
Celine Moro and Jura Asteria were the same person, and
oh yeah.
Had you explored more of the syndicate side, then more of that would have come out. But yeah, like that was also the woman in gray, like that. Those are all the same person.
Wow.
Amazing. I think my favorite rumor that I had was the Enyo being part of the Greymoors.
Oh, and I liked that too, because when you all were like, "Oh, she's the long lost child of someone."
She's a princess.
Yeah, y'all kept going at that for a while, and I was like, I'm not a princess.
Ooh, here's a
I'm
good
not.
question.
You wouldn't have known. You don't
That's
remember.
true. Well,
You
I
didn't-
remembered some things, just not everything.
Scott didn't get rumors, or did he get rumors coming in? He didn't get rumors.
He didn't, only because I didn't think that it would make sense for someone who doesn't know anything about anything to have
If
known any
you-
rumors.
If you were to pick rumors for Rafen, what would they be?
I mean, like his whole what he knew about you all was a rumor that
Oh,
you were
yeah.
these scions of death and destruction. That he had to stop you at all costs, and so forth. So if like Rafen had been but I don't think Rafen would have existed as he did if you had started the campaign with us, because I don't think that like this route of a reborn would have been as obvious to you. So that's I guess my question for you, Scott. If you had started this campaign from day one, what kind of character do you think you would have made?
Not a reborn. That was purely a mechanic for somebody coming into a very mature campaign who didn't know shit. So it just sort of fit well.
Plus, with all the death,
With all the death, right? That made sense. I mean, a paladin made sense from a class perspective because there wasn't really a healer nor frontline character to the party. So I think I probably still would have chosen paladin. But the backstory would have been totally different.
Yeah, it would have been unrecognizable as Rafen in terms of.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he would have been young, much younger than everybody else.
he would have been a baby.
That's right. None of this grandpa bullshit. Yeah.
I like that we joked and called him like grandpa and stuff like to begin with, and then he turned out to be an
a
actual
grandpa.
grandpa. Yeah.
Was that right off the bat? Were you planning a familiar relationship there?
Yes, well, and like the session one where Rafen was there, and Snash said, "Does he look like Enyo?" And I thought, holy fuck, how did she figure it out? Like that's
Note
insane.
taker, man.
And then I was like, what do you mean? And you're like a human? And like,
Well, because you're like he's kind of like not good looking. Like not in that way, but like and I was like, holy shit, is this another vampire?
Oh.
That's where I was going with that question. I was like, does he look dead?
It's another
So,
vampire who looks
what
dead.
decisions that the party made caused you to scramble the most?
Oh, so this is the thing that was, I would say, my biggest bit of improv, was when you went to the Oraculum and the Orrery. Because when I made the map for like the second version of the ruins, that little like gyroscopic thing, that was just like a detail from the map making software. Like this would be like a
that's
fun
a
puzzle
riot.
device. And then you all were like, oh, well,
It's important.
This
a
means
smaller
something.
version of the one at the Oraculum, so it's gotta be.
We were so
And-
set on that being so important.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so then it was like, well, and so
Because
then,
you
but then I
mentioned it.
never, right, and then I had never really like fully fleshed out. Okay, how I was like, it's just an orrery, like they're just like looking at the stars and shit. But then you're like, we gotta go there. So then I'm like, all right, well, what are they gonna? What
There's
happens
some
when
What
they're
are
there?
they
Smash
gonna
Arcanexes
do?
on
I
it.
was
or-
I was in our group chat. I was like, what if it's like a nuke? Like we could.
We were
Yeah,
thinking it was
So
gonna like have
because-
some secret like opening and something.
Is
like,
it the
because
out
the
of
key?
it.
little
Is it
one-
the key to the lock?
Yeah.
The little one
Yeah.
you could put an Arcanex in, right? The one that
Mhm.
we found underground.
Yeah,
So I was thinking that somehow there was a way that we had to go get the big ass Arcanex from the obelisk, bring it back here, and then
Put it in the
use
deck.
this like a fucking laser cannon to kill the herald. That's what my brain was saying. It's like,
Wow.
oh, he gave us the answer in small form. Now we got to do it in
Just
big
do it
form.
in big form.
Wow.
and had that all been intentional, that would have been great.
If
even-
we
even
would
with-
have done that, if we would have tried to get like the big Arcanex to put in,
If you had
big
gone
one.
that route, if you're like, this is what we're doing, we're going and we're
Just
gonna
go with
make
it.
that big Arcanex and we're gonna bring it to the Orrery and we're gonna make something out of that, then yeah, I would have rolled with it. But like even within that scene, something I lucked into, and you're like, what are the names? What are the names of the things, of the moons and the planets and the stars? And I was, like, had to come up with them. But also,
oh no.
when I threw out the numbers, it was just pure fucking luck that it added up to 21.
Oh, nice. Even better.
Oh my
Love
god.
that. Love
because
that.
we were sitting here like, oh god, there's the same number and there's 21 the forebears and there's
Yep.
Oh yeah, no, that was the one that I was like, I'm totally flying by the seat of my pants here, but I think it's going well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was such a fun episode.
That's so funny. All right, well, what did we miss? What artifacts, events, secrets? What did we miss that would have been pivotal to the Martyria's lore?
Pivotal to the lore.
or that you just really wanted to share and didn't get a chance to.
Yeah, what did you spend a lot of time on that we completely missed?
So I can tell you like what I had made, and so because I had already run a campaign in the city, I didn't spend as much time like doing a ton of like front loading of that, because I'm like I know the city, I know the general story well enough that that I took on a very like I'm going to adapt to what you do role, and the world and the story is going to evolve based on your decisions. But I think like in terms of the like if you had done X or Y or Z, if you had spent more time with the syndicate, or if you had gone to like hunt out Kivas sooner, that would have like changed the pace at which you learned certain things. But then that also would have changed the outcome of like what those eventually grew into. So I don't know if I can say that there's like, this is the thing that you missed. Except that I kept trying to get you to go into the Bright Harbor, into the secret room with that poem, but you're like, nah. Woe sees it and then doesn't tell anybody about it.
So
Now
would
we've
we like
learned
to-
don't keep secrets amongst the party.
No, that was a canon. Nobody wants me until I do something for them, so I'm not doing shit for anybody anymore.
How about we take a break?
Sounds like a good plan.
Going at it? All right.
Gonna double check my walls to see. How
Yeah,
we doing?
good
Still
luck.
standing.
All right, we'll be back shortly.
Aye. Okay.
Far and wide, till I find the truth inside. good is a charm without strength to carry on? It's taken years to learn just what that means, to come to terms with every little thing. And now when I lay down to sleep, I hear a hum call out to me. I've not found it yet, but no, I will. I feel it tugging at the back of my heel. I'll follow it through any door. Show me a world I've not seen before, and maybe there it'll glow again. For what good is a charm without strength to carry on? We saw a mountain, a curious mountain. We placed a bet on who could climb. As we ascended, this mountain rumbled, and neath our feet began to rise. And down we tumbled into the tall grass, looked up with terror in our eyes. It cast a shadow across the forest, looming lofty o'er the pines. Our people ran and the strong survived. The wrath of he who sends a tremor with a stride. No use in turning to look behind us. We knew the shadow had eclipsed the sky. And though we hastened to seek our shelter, it all seemed hopeless when we caught his eye. Our hearts were pounding, our bodies aching, and with no warning this pursuit did end. His thunderous holler grew ever distant as we carried on around the bend. Our people ran and the strong survived. The wrath of he who sends a tremor with a stride. We tried to tell the townsfolk, but they just would not believe. And since that fateful day, they say the beast has not been seen. But old Ruby in her cottage says she knows for sure he lives. And on a quiet night, she can still hear him in the hills. She tells of elders who made their camp here with no idea they were in
Makes me very happy.
All right, we're back. I said I wasn't going to MC, so I don't know why I'm talking now, but I guess I'm just used to it.
Mhm.
The natural pattern of this stream at this point.
That's right.
That's fair.
Welcome back, folks, to Martyria Postmortem.
Not Martyria, just Martyria discussions because the game's over and we're all dead.
But
Yay!
we will
Wait.
forever live on in our own hearts and minds.
You're not dead, you're just not alive in the same
That's
way.
right. We've been unalived.
We're all together.
Oh,
We're
are we
one.
all together? I
Yeah,
was
we're
gonna ask
all
that.
one soul.
Mm-hmm.
One being.
We're in an
Wow.
Arcanex,
Yep.
like a mime in a box. We're trying to get out of an Arcanex. I got a bunch of little ones that were just kind of
Okay.
curiosity questions. So the salt poem that was in the treasury, that was also on a tomb in the crypt, as I recall.
Yeah.
What did we miss there?
That was the
So-
secret room, right?
Yeah, that was to get into where Enyo happened into because of this,
Okay.
deal with change.
I
But-
forced that quite a bit.
Yeah, because but it worked out. I mean, your narrative justification there, which I think was always like my guiding philosophy is like if it's good for the story, then let's do it. But yeah, like I mean, them being mariners, the sea being a big part of them, and with that, like this motif of salt for Irem. So this idea of like burying the dead with salt was something that I came up with, but also the tombs that you looked into were the ones that were false tombs because they didn't actually house the bones of the dead, and so wouldn't have been given that actual salty royal treatment.
So if we had thrown some salt in, it would have opened a door.
Yeah, in the little recess in there, you put some salt
Nice.
in. There was salt on the altar. You put it in. You go down. You get a journal. You see some craziness.
How many other things like that did we make just infinitely more complicated than they needed to be?
I don't think that there were that many. I think that was the big one, just because of how cautious. And okay, there's 4 barrels, and there's 4 things that it could be in. Yeah, so
Nick, what we do is we think that you have created these big elaborate things for us and we need to work really hard to get to the end.
and sometimes I do.
Yeah, and there's always death is around
Statues.
every corner, as I found
The
out.
statues was always like those puzzles. They were like involved, but you figured them out.
All right, in the potion shop, there was a cauldron of magic juice. Were we supposed to have used that for anything?
I don't think you were supposed to do anything, but
Well, I mean, was it something that you were like, I'm gonna put this in this shop, and maybe they can use this in some way?
I thought if anybody is going to take this, it's going to be Scott, and if he does, then we can figure out like what is he going to do with this, basically just liquid frost. Is he going to become a drug kingpin? Probably not at this point in the game, but if you were like, we're going to make a weapon out of this, or we're going to do something with this, then we would have found a way. But I didn't have any like design
Gotcha.
in mind. You just walked into a magical meth lab.
Gotcha.
Speaking of that, is he just like hanging out there somewhere in Martyria naked? Like while all that shit was going down? Because we just poofed. We poofed from Potion Shop straight
So the
to
guy we captured.
Oh yeah, Malloy.
yeah.
Malloy is just, he was just
tied up
Naked
Tied
during
up.
the apocalypse.
We left a wake of very confused creatures.
because we just teleported out of there. We just left him in the middle of the street.
I mean, we all just committed suicide in front of Fade. He's just standing around going, "What the fuck?"
No, Fade's gone. Fade doesn't have a soul.
Yeah, I thought he disappeared when you did.
Yeah.
well, because Fade was like it was just an extension of
So he's
Rafen.
part of us now.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's included in the
clip clop, clip clop.
Clip clop.
collaboration we've become.
All right. When the Herald was created, I believe that Caspian was holding an Arcanex, and the Shimmer Boy was also holding an orb to become an Arcanex, right?
Yeah.
What became of the second Arcanex from that ritual?
That one didn't make an Arcanex because so he was experimenting because he didn't know how Arcanexes were made, and as such, he had his version of the materials for it. But you had 2 souls, 2 vessels, a third one in the ether with a third vessel, and they only ended up filling the one Arcanex and then the physical body of that twisted and became what it was, with both of them fighting for control.
All right. In the mansion treasury, what would have happened if we had touched the enchanted treasure? And why was the gold statue made of 7 different materials?
The gold statue being made of 7 different materials was trying to. The 7 was just the number that came to mind because it always comes to mind. But yeah, that statue would have attacked you. So, and the golds would have basically just been a chain reaction of mouse traps, more or less. So you would have then set off the statue and making Enyo's probability of survival a lot lower. And maybe realistically your own survival.
Was Cat Cafe in the original design of Martyria?
No.
Or was that just for us?
That was just for you. And it was just a name from a list of names that that I have in my Google Doc of okay, if we need a tavern, here are some names. And that was one of them, and I liked it, and you all did too, obviously.
Did the Cat Cafe survive?
Oh, absolutely. I had in my notes one of the things that let me see. I don't even remember about what point that was, but
Cat Cafe must survive no matter what.
Well, no, it was gonna. Let me see what I had written. It was after the Reapers and Syndicate were just set loose, and the carnage and chaos of the city. One of the things I was like, okay, what are some things that I can have going on in the city that they can find? And if you had gone back to the Cat Cafe, there was a pretty good chance it was going to be on fire, but you never went back, so it wasn't.
The smell of burning
Schrodinger's
fur.
Cat Cafe.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Is there anything you regret adding or saying to the game that made your life difficult for the rest of the game?
I mean, there was the thing with Alistair that he shouldn't have been back that I didn't. I realized too late, which that's one thing that I would have changed. I think also in retrospect, I wouldn't. If I did it again, I wouldn't give you the level boosts at the end. I don't think you needed it. It just overcomplicated things. I could have just given you the feat and some health or something, and maybe not even that.
It was fun to get to see some higher level stuff.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too. Is because I know that you had people said, "Wow, we got to get to 20, got to get to 20." Well, kind of jokingly, but maybe not jokingly earlier. And I think I had promised Scott 14, so I was trying to deliver.
I didn't ask for it.
I know.
What initially reading through backstories and stuff, what did you see that you were unhappy about or thought was going to be a problem or you were going to have trouble working around or with?
The one thing, and it wasn't even that it was a problem, it was specifically with FAT, because it was adding an extra faction for Ruby, who already had built in, unbeknownst to her, a faction with the vampire. part of it, because originally the Nightbirds weren't vampires. They weren't going to be. They were just this vigilante group. But then that was a way of like tying those together. And so FAT didn't quite get as much time as it would have otherwise. But also, as soon as Lemon was out of the picture, then it was like, okay, well, FAT is fucked. And then they wouldn't come back in the second iteration of things. So I think that was the one where I'm like, it was the trickiest to try to really expand upon too, because Enyo was drifting much farther away from like the thief and even assassin really, and more toward I've got to become this vampire.
Were there any Martyria maps that we never got to see?
Oh, if I made a map, then you went there.
Okay.
Like,
I was like, was there any part of the city that you had already had a map for in the past that we never got to use?
Ooh, so first time that I played, we were totally theater of the mind, so no maps existed
Oh.
except for the region map, or the city map. So a lot of like the maps that I did make was like, okay, these are locations that I'm familiar with or that I had like sketched out on like in a notebook. That I'm like, okay, I can make this into a map for the stream game. But like there was yeah, like if I had a feeling that you were going to go there because you indicated strongly that you were going to go there, then I made sure I had a map prepared. So if you decided that you were going to spend more time in somewhere in Asher Heights, then I might not have had a map immediately available, but by the next session I would have. So a lot of the maps were reactive to what you all decided.
Cool.
Who was your favorite NPC to play?
Gobblefunk, for sure.
I figured.
Just a little mischief boy. I get to be crass but also like goofy and tender and sorry, go ahead.
I like when DMs have an NPC within the party, because sometimes that's how we get our like, oh, did you guys remember about this thing that you said you wanted to do? Yeah.
I felt like Lyle was used in that way a few times.
Yeah, that was like his main purpose.
There were a couple times that Owlin like warned us against things or hinted at things and we completely ignored them.
Yeah, I tried to do that, or like saying like, well, we could just like not do this if you guys don't want to. 'Cause I never wanted you to feel like you had to do things.
Anytime you said that, I got so scared. I'm like, oh my god, we're gonna TPA. This is TPK.
Yeah.
Well, because
I'm gonna have to pause real quick. I'm getting a call from my my landlord, so they probably want to know about the water. Be right back.
So the like big first time that he did that it had a really bad consequence was right before we got on the corpse boat. That like in that conversation in the Love Hotel where Alan was like, "There's a faster way. Surely we could get there."
And like,
but no effort into following it.
As soon as he said that, like, this is after we had spent like a whole day like in our chat talking about that's what we're gonna do. He said that and like, oh, I was so nervous. I was like, oh no, did we make the wrong choice? Like, yeah, but we're gonna do this still, right? And we were all like, I guess we get on the boat.
Like I felt like we were just committed, so it's like, well, I guess we're just going for this boat thing.
Yeah, looking back, I kind of wish we hadn't gone on the boat. Truthfully,
the cannibal cruise.
Yeah, I kind of wish we hadn't done that.
Corpse cruise.
Oh, you mean where we all died?
Yeah,
that one.
I wish we wouldn't have left the boat just to loot.
That's true too.
I don't think we're gonna make it through that boat ride regardless.
Yep, agreed. It would have ended in some form of party death. in some way. I feel like.
There were too many enemies, too many traps.
Okay, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Could we have ever negotiated with the Shimmer while we were on the boat?
Ooh, if I would have, it would have been interesting how you would have done that because they didn't speak. You didn't have like a common language. So if you had done something like with tongues, then yeah, that would have been good. But if you're just like non-verbally trying to communicate, like their history with the people that looked like you was.
So was that always set up to be like the
Instant
moment
death?
where, well, the moment where change got a hold of us?
That was one potential like opportunity for change to do so. Like I set that up. I was like, okay, if they go down the river, they're going to be ambushed. They're going to get their ass kicked because it's not like two people that are waiting on you. It's like this is a whole people's way of life at stake. Their life itself at stake. So they're going to defend the shit out of their space, and they're going to do it with absolute no prejudice. Or absolute prejudice, and so, like, if you had managed to, like, because you got that barricade down once, but you had like already dropped anchor. If you had plowed through that, then you probably would have been okay, and would have been able to carry on your merry way to the promontory. But just the way that everything ended up shaking out, yeah, it was. You almost turned it into like a. You put up a hell of a fight. You made it a lot longer than it seems like you were going to.
So
If
was
we-
there?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. Was there always a point in which you were trying to get change to get a hold of us in the way that he did?
Not in that specific mechanism. It would have been more like what ended up happening with Ruby, where she just kept like reaching out, like, I need something, I have this need, and then change would answer the call, and get their hooks in you in that way. But this just happened to be a convenient way because, hey, you're all dead, but you don't want to be, and so, or you're in that liminal space between being alive and being dead.
If we had not gone on the corpse cruise or had plowed through that barricade and made our merry way to the promontory, would we have completely missed opportunity then?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so unless you would have gone back to the Shimmer for some reason, so opportunity just would have been part of the game that wouldn't
We'd
have
never see.
wouldn't have
Big
come up. Yeah.
question mark. Yeah. That's cool.
So the Herald tried to get the OG from Rafin once, and then Enyo gave it to him at the end, but it was kind of taken back from him. What would have happened if the Herald had actually been able to hang on to the OG?
Oh, so mechanically in that fight, it would have been like he would have been just amped up, basically. So he would have been smiting the shit out of all of you very hard. But in terms of like, if he finally like got the Arcanex, like I don't think he would have known what to do with it in terms of like, oh, it's like he wouldn't have been able to make himself whole with it. Not like how far he had gone. If ever that was going to happen, it would have had to come from you all. But like, he knew at least to some extent what it was, and therefore coveted it. But not enough that it was like going to distract him from carrying out the steps that he felt he needed to carry out to bring about the breaking of the Accord. But it was always, I always figured like you're gonna destroy the Arcanex because you had talked about you're gonna destroy it, you're gonna break it, and so I figured if somehow that doesn't happen, and I tried to take it from you, but you have a million ways of retrieving an object at that point in the game, then that was always almost certainly going to be a very brief stage of the final showdown.
Do you have any questions for us, Nick?
Yeah, so I had asked this question when we had the Weird Guard preview, and I said, "Ooh, well, I want to talk about this during the Q&A." But for each of you and your characters, what ended up being something that was much more important or much less important to your character than you initially envisioned, or perhaps what's along the way or at the end point was the most surprising or different from how you envisioned your character's journey going?
I can say a huge thank you to Ruby for killing Affinity, because that changed Wo's storyline so much. Because the whole, I've talked about it before, the whole Lyle thing was like a throwaway shit, like ex-boyfriend, whatever. But that like really developed the story into something so much more, because it made Wo feel guilty about stuff, and that's really conflicting. And just that entire storyline with like Lyle and Wo was really only brought forth because Enyo killed a bitch.
You're welcome. I mean, you didn't need the "you're welcome" at the beginning of all of this nonsense, because you were just like, why the hell did you do that? But
yes,
I guess now, I can
but
say you're welcome
it was such
for the chaos.
character development moment, and it really like made me. I was like, oh, shit, what the fuck's going on? Like, my character is fucked now, like screwed over. And then I was like, oh wow. And that's like really when I started getting like connected to my character too, I think, is like then I started like really developing like such a sense of like persona while we played our game.
Owlin being as big a part of the campaign as she was not like intended or planned. It was you asked us for who does your character really care about, and so it came up without her, and kind of thought she'd be background NPC, run into her every now and then sort of thing. So that was a surprise that I was just like, well, we're going with this now. This is
and yeah, I thought that too, based on like the one line of text that you had written with Alan. But then when you like were interacting with Alan, it was clear that like she means a lot more than just like, oh yeah, this is my friend from Les Chauffines. And so that was me just responding to the energy that you were putting out.
Yeah, that relationship was not something I really planned for.
I certainly didn't plan to have a granddaughter. So that was a surprise, but the big inflection, the change for Rafin that I didn't expect at all was, when he died thinking also that his granddaughter, the one anchor point that he had in Martyria, had also died. And so at that point, he actually shifted oaths, right? He went from oath of conquest to oath of vengeance, thinking that he was going to avenge not only his dead wife and daughters, but now his granddaughter. That was never part of his backstory. So that was a lot of fun to play out. Yeah,
well, and that all came about because you had in your backstory that he has this locket with these women in it, and so that was really the entry point for me. It was like, because I had to decide, okay, so who were they? And because Rafin doesn't know who they are, and I was like, well, it's got to be Enyo's family.
So when I wrote that, I knew nothing of Enyo's backstory at all. And
Yeah.
I was thinking that would really be a way to connect Rafin to this party of women, right, who could effectively be proxies for the family he lost, right? That he would start to see them as not replacements, but another set that he could protect in the same way that he wanted to protect his family. So that shifted the meaning of that a bit, which I thought was great.
God, if you think about it, Enyo's mom had such a horrible life.
Yeah.
Like, so many tragic and terrible things happened to Enyo's mom.
Yeah, my mom was a very tortured individual.
Her sister died. Her mom died. Her dad disappeared.
Missing.
Died.
Her daughter's a little psycho, but she's adorable, and then she dies. So now
died
her
in
daughter's running around by
Murdered
herself.
violently
Yeah.
in front of her daughter and husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stella's was a tragic story, certainly.
So there's a few things about Enyo that I think back on, and I regret us going on the ship right after Enyo turned. I often think that if we had chosen a different path, she would have been able to develop as the creature that she was becoming more. Because what ended up happening us by us going there and basically passing and then making the deal with change, even though we probably didn't have to, you know, it started tainting what she had been trying to accomplish all along. And then, you know, she ends up getting in another precarious situation, which she's always doing, so that's not that big of a deal. But like the fact that shortly after, not even like probably a week or two after she's actually gone through her transformation, it's yanked away from her. It was very much a hard choice, but it was also like the obvious choice of you go and search after this dream for the longest time, and you think that's what you need, that's what you want, you know? And once you actually achieve it, you realize how much it is destroying you and has destroyed you, and not just yourself, but the people around you, how it's kind of hurting them. And so I almost thought it was a relief for her as a character that she returned to who she was, you know? But it was definitely a hard thing to process when it came to that point. I was like, Nick, you son of a why? Oh, I wanted to be it.
I just want to be a vampire.
Yeah,
There's
especially
also
when you
the,
like
like,
restricted me. Like you
immediately-
powers right away.
Immediately after becoming a vampire, all of the other vampires, you know, are found dead.
Or
That was,
immediately becoming a vampire and you're told that technically you can't kill anyone, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was like she kept getting hit in the idea that you picked the wrong choice, and you know,
It was
like
Enyo luck. It was Simba luck.
it was the Simba luck. It was the family luck. That's for sure. I mean, I think
Yeah.
when she found
Cursed.
out that Rafin was her grandfather, it was still just like it was something for the longest time that she couldn't really wrap her head around. Like she had been connecting with Rafin as like he's a part of the party, he's part of the team that we're trying to stop this nonsense from happening. I don't think it was until she came back that she was really like, okay, this is my last family member. We're all we have besides Woe and Sitsu and Alan. Oh, and Lau. I can't forget that
Well,
idiot.
and for Enyo, there was also always that like, well, but is he really my grandpa?
Yeah.
Or is he the grandpa of the girl who's buried in the ground? Or and so I could tell not only because Ruby didn't know, but because Enyo didn't know.
Mm-hmm. That was why it was constantly debate. But yeah, it was just one of those things. I was like, dang, it's a short time of frame that she got to be what she thought she wanted, and then she realized very quickly over the course of events, never mind, I don't want that anymore. I don't need that anymore. So.
Yeah, well, and vampires didn't originally exist in Martyria outside of the rumor mill. But when you said I want my character to be a vampire, but I had to think of like I had to reimagine like what is a vampire in this setting that has some of the things that we associate, but the origin of it is different. So it's not quite a vampire, but I think we at least got close enough, right?
I agree. I think we nailed it in a way that really linked the story in very well. And I was very happy, and I have been happy throughout the whole campaign of the decision of being like, hey, just this is the basis of what I've come up with. Feed into that what you need to, Nick. And I really appreciate all the tidbits and surprises you brought to me, because there were many moments where even Emily I'm like, Inyo doesn't know. Ruby doesn't know. Ruby doesn't know what's going on. What does Inyo need to do if we won't know what's going on? And I often felt I was playing that, off the cuff constantly of, yeah, what's happening? So, worked out.
I just know that Scott has like 15 more questions to go.
12.
Oh, okay. Go for it, Scott. Go.
Waiting for him.
Don't hold back, my guy.
You want little ones or big ones?
Up to you.
All right, we'll do little one. These are just the ones that sort of came off the top of my head. But so I know that in the antique shop there were other magic items that we did not choose to leave with. Anything cool? Anything that we missed?
Yes, and you won't know until you get a reskinned, slightly changed version of it in a future
God damn
campaign.
it.
He's got a bank of magic items, and he's gonna use them in Weirdguard.
That's okay.
That's
We're gonna
cool.
get them in Weirdguard. We're gonna
We get-
obtain these in a different
okay,
way.
We get
Someone-
try number 2.
Someone's getting the tiara. Someone is getting the tiara.
Oh
I
yes.
don't think that was magical though, was it?
Don't worry,
it was.
Quinn. Don't worry, Quinn. We're gonna put a tiara on your lovely flowered head. It's
I like
gonna be
it.
amazing.
I'm okay
Yeah.
with that.
You can
I'll be
wear a
fabulous.
flower crown.
Nosh will make you kneel and place it on your head. That's what's gonna happen, my friend.
In general, though, with items, my favorite ones are ones that have some unpredictability, like if as a built-in roll table. So there were a couple of items, like Tidra's Evervial or the Glove of the Gambler, that had those built in that I think are always fun. But if you had got them like at the very end, if you're like, oh, we're going to go shopping right before we go face down, it would have been... I might not even had them available in the shop because it would have been a waste of the item at that stage.
Were
Oh
there
yeah,
any that
I
like?
loved fireballing myself. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Were there any that like you really wanted us to pick up and we didn't?
No, I think that you picked up on the clues that I put for you. Like, I knew that you were going to get the sickle because of the moons, and so I didn't have to worry about that. If I made something that was like, this is pretty much for this character, and so yeah, no. But there are items that probably would have been helpful or cool, but we'll see a version of them later.
Sweet. All right. It felt like there was more to the Shimmer Boy's story that we didn't uncover. He was in some gladiatorial arena. He was part of this experimentation. Did he have a name? What did we miss about that character?
His name was Wind on the Water. And
Oh, that is so sad.
right, and so yeah, like I know your first exposure to him was your first vision as him, and so of like this portent of doom coming to the Shimmer, and then it happening, but he is not one of the lucky ones who dies, but is taken. And I mean, the Mariners exported their chattel to a lot of them to the garrison, to the wealthy in Asher Heights as unpaid labor, and so having some success in the ring, and with his prodigious regenerative powers, even more so maybe than the other Shimmer, became this the source of this experimentation. But with him, the experimentation was so extensive that he was kept becoming entirely destroyed, but then regenerated from the smallest bit of him that could have been held on to without killing him. So that's why when Ennio encountered him, he still seemed like a child, because he essentially, physically was.
Was he the little red-eyed boy? Yeah.
Little red-eyed boy. And so Ennio's visions of that in the sewer and up above, that's all tinged with the uncertainty of memory and the influence of the Herald and all that. But yeah, that was the idea, that when and Scott, you had mentioned to me that that Ruby, you had mentioned like, oh, Ruby should have the potion, the last of that memory potion, and so I had something prepared for that with in terms of like, and this is some of the stuff that she would have learned, um, more about, yeah, the boy and the woman in gray and all that, but we didn't get to that, and that's okay. Because Enyo set him free.
Anybody else? You want me to keep going?
Go for it, because I know you
All
have
right.
a list.
I do have some more. All right, so this was actually predated me, but as I was watching through some of the earlier episodes, I don't know if it was ever fully explained, but can you explain all the parts of the Five Little Nightbirds poem?
Oh, yeah. I have to pull it up because I don't have it memorized. But
Wow.
I know
How dare you?
if I can.
I feel like that might have been something that we deconstructed off stream in chat
Yeah,
I
that
think that
predated me.
I think that we tried our best.
in
I
the
don't-
group
Yeah. That was in the.
of who was who with the Five Little Nightbirds.
Yeah.
And so let me see what the poem is. Why can I not find the poem in my notes? Does I must have saved it in another document. Hold on. But yeah, it was in reference to the five members, obviously. Hold on. I feel like a schlub here that I can't find it.
I can do it in a minute.
Okay.
I think it was episode 21. Maybe.
Can we find it before?
I believe the beginning of it was Remember the Raven's Folly, or was that a different one?
That was what was written
was
in Blood, which
I
we
got it
didn't
here.
pursue that either, which was like a fable that was, taunting
So it's
Serapis.
5 little nightbirds prancing through the skies. They
Okay.
donned a mask, took up their task, spreading wicked lies. First little nightbird mourning in its bed.
Okay, so that was Misty was mourning Dev. That was her alter ego, and still literally mourning the still all these years later the loss of her son, but also in her left alone in the bed of her cell in the Grey Keep.
Next little nightbird went and lost its head.
Kendra.
Third little nightbird preening in the square.
That would be Jura Asteria / Zelene Moro, as she was literally in that moment giving her victory speech.
Fourth little nightbird flew into a snare.
That
Oh,
would
that would-
be
Seraphis.
And fifth
Got
little
himself caught.
nightbird hiding in its fear.
Is Givus.
All right. But all for naught, for they forgot that changes, and this is where my notes leave off. Is it near, I assume?
All but here, or something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, they, from the Herald's perspective, are just further... I mean, one, because of what Kivus did and the covering up of it, but further just part of this system of corruption that's at the core of mortal kind, and the pretending that they are these paragons of vigilante justice, but certainly not.
All right. Some general ones. What was the most unexpected role play moment for you?
Unexpected role play moment. By the end of things, like I feel like I knew what to expect from you all. I still think it's Enyo killing Affinity because I wasn't expecting.
I don't
her
think
to-
that counted as roleplay.
Murder
That
hobo.
was-
I love
That
how
was-
it comes back to the murder hobo instance that Enyo has.
It was
Ruby
such a
acting on
trigger
impulse.
moment. It was just like a
Yeah.
intrusive thoughts. Do
Mhm.
it. Swerve into the other
okay,
lane.
Okay,
Let's
I
go.
will say this about that whole
The call of the
situation.
void.
Does everybody remember the fact that Cyril was egging Enyo on to
Oh,
the side of the whole
100%.
thing?
Oh yeah.
Like it wasn't just
it
Enyo
wasn't-
being little Enyo. It was also like Enyo and Cyril connecting and being like, "Oh yeah, this is
The
gonna
way
be
it
fun."
works, because it works so well with role play, is because it was said to Enyo in a joking manner, like, "Oh, just kill her. Just kill that one.
Yeah.
Kill the new
And
girlfriend."
it didn't help.
And
that,
Enyo was like, "Oh yeah, sure," because
That's an option.
Enyo's like, that's what she does. She's an assassin. She
Well,
doesn't
and, like-
have that interpersonal relationships to know what a joke is.
and it didn't help that like killing or spilling blood was the way to open the door. Anyways, like I had already inferred that blood needed to be spilled. So yeah, just kill her.
She was
okay,
like,
yeah,
"My friend doesn't like this girl.
yeah,
Other friend told me kill her. I need blood. Okay, let's do this."
yeah. And it was just like stab. Bye.
Yeah,
It's
so that
beautiful.
certainly was unexpected. I can't say that like Rafen and Gobblefunk's bromance wasn't expected because it was. Like I was like, Gobblefunk's gonna love this guy. Like he's had nothing but Lyle and this group of women, and Lyle's just following Woe around like a shadow, and so that felt very natural for Gobblefunk to crave some of camaraderie in that regard. Other surprising roleplay moments. Let's see. I don't know. I don't think that I think a lot of your decisions for like what you wanted to do were the surprising things that maybe I wasn't prepared for, or like the questions that you asked. Like when you asked Gobblefunk, okay, well, like, can't tell me about order, but what about change? And those things definitely caught me off guard. But your characters became so clearly who they were that their decisions were like, yeah, okay, this makes sense. I'm not super surprised.
What, if any, roleplay moments made you emotional?
Oh, I mean, anytime that you all got emotional, like when I see the how you all were feeling and reacting, or anything where like Woe went, or Sitsu,
Anytime we mute our mic,
yeah, right. All of those moments.
We
I
make a
think-
face and you just see us start furiously typing.
Hold on one sec, guys.
Those are actually some of my favorite moments too. Is like Enyo would be having some conversation with a prime or something, and the two of you, Sitsu and Woe, would just be going,
Yeah. No, I always appreciated the background miming.
it
like,
was
this situation.
usually dirty jokes.
Oh yeah.
that
Yeah.
were 100% were like, we could run with that, but we can't say anything right now, so we just have to be like,
but then often when there was some big story revelation too, then it was like jaw drop, and like, it's great reading that on your faces. It's just
well, it's like when
It's a lot of fun.
when you have your notes, right, and you've been thinking about this, and something is either confirmed or it's like completely blindsided you're like, what the because we think about this all the time, and then
Yeah.
we talk about it amongst ourselves. And like sometimes, like those theories that we throw into the group chat, and then those come into like reality, then we're like, it's the thing is happening. They were right. Like, yeah. It's
Or
so
we were
good.
so drastically off base. Like, what?
Or like when, so like a big one is when Nick was talking to us and he just like casually threw out 3 gods names when he was talking about one of the primes, and we were like, wait, the primes are actually 3 gods in one. And then it was just like this like moment where we're like, what the fuck is going on?
I think it was when you asked Gobblefunk to name Orr's brother, because
Yes.
we had already sort of hinted at like maybe the primes and forebears are like they're actually kind of copies of each other. We don't know. And then
I
he
think
called him
it's
Orrin
when when I talked with Order about change, and Order named changes
forebears,
his little gods. Yeah.
I will say that one of my favorite things about this group is that the game lives between the sessions as well. That we continue to talk about it and theorize and all that. It's awesome. I love it.
I love listening back, and then like I'll be like listening back one day, like usually like a Monday or a Tuesday, and then like the thought will happen, and then I pop into the chat, and then the chat is going for like 7 hours, and one of us hasn't checked chat all day, and then they check chat and it's like 57 messages, and you're like,
what's going on?
Oh my god.
I would hate that so much sometimes because I'd be working.
You're
and at
like,
the end
I
of the
have
day,
to read.
I'd be like, shit.
No,
and
'cause
gone through
I
every iteration
I
of what
work-
could have happened. God.
I work every Tuesday, and so when it was really slow at work on Tuesdays, I would just be going through the Discord like, okay, who matches with what? Okay, what do I think about this? Pulling the stream up on my phone at work just to listen to a certain part that got referenced.
And I think that definitely like goes between all of us, is like we all have very much commitment to the game, and that makes a big difference on like outside time for inside time, because we have so much commitment to these like outside conversations. So then when game night shows up, we're all like, all right, let's go. We're excited. It's time. We have our plan. Oh, we can't do any of this.
Just kidding. Plans change.
Yeah, that's what they say about the making plans.
Best laid plans.
So I don't remember what we were saying before I had to go talk to the maintenance.
Talking about unexpected roleplay moments.
Oh yeah, unexpected roleplay.
So I think for me, I was totally not expecting the Pinocchio moment with Gobblefunk becoming a real boy. So.
Oh yeah.
Was that something you saw coming, Nick?
Based on what Woe did, I was like, well, yeah, that's what would happen if Woe freed him from his bonds, and like because you had pumped enough magic into him that you gave him what he needed to return to some semblance of his long ago former self.
Is a very wealthy lech. Yeah.
Oh, I like to think that Gobblefunk lost it immediately.
He got robbed going into town. Yeah.
Or he
dropped it in the river.
Wasted it on a terrible investment, or he got scammed. Yeah, something.
He got scammed by some girl immediately.
Yes.
Right.
Or what's that bright light? Maybe I should walk into it. Ah, shit.
He just spent all of it at a brothel.
Nice. What would have been different if Enyo had kept her promise to make Kivas suffer?
Ooh, so if she had done that, then the Herald would have come and paid you another visit, Enyo, and maybe you would have had an opportunity to have that talking him out of things. I don't know if you would have talked about it.
Stop, Snash. Stop it. Stop.
Oh, sorry.
Stop.
But also, even if the Herald did nothing,
Stop it.
in the second go around of things, like everything was just gravy at that point, was just cherry on the sundae, was just fucking around with you all, really, because the deed had already been done, and it was now just a matter of running out the clock.
I really enjoyed the time skipping and what anxiety that put
Oh,
on
I
us every
love
time.
to. Oh no! As soon as an NPC started stuttering.
So much stress. It would like it would be long enough between that I would almost forget that was gonna happen and be like, "What are they?"
Yes.
Oh, God damn it!
Next game, Nick's gonna make an NPC who just stutters and gives
And
us
we're all just gonna
PTSD.
twitch when it happens. Like, oh. What from this game, like dynamic wise, roleplay wise, character wise, story wise, whatever, would you want to see carried over into Weird Card?
Oh, I mean, I think just the interaction amongst yourselves, and that I didn't have to be involved in a lot of the role play. That you all would just take the reins and spend 20 minutes or longer amongst yourselves, which is always awesome to see as your characters become more realized. And I think just like the building of the bonds that you did, like Sitsu and Woe, I think were more simpatico, and therefore I think of the four had a pretty strong connection, especially because they also were dragging their love interests into what was happening. Whereas
Unfortunate
Enyo
partners who got stuck trying to save the world with us.
and Rafen then both had this, we are no longer really human. We are, but we're not. And obviously the familial connection and the we don't remember shit about our past connection. And so I think just, having those ties, and hopefully we see in the next campaign that there's more of that crossing of streams as well, that Ruby and Matilda's character and Ruby and Scott's character and Ruby and Snash's character all have those elements that bind them.
Some very loose plans have been laid.
Yeah, I know you all have been working together in terms of your characters, and just from what I know, I'm excited.
Did you draw inspiration from anywhere to create the forebears and the primes?
Yeah, I can read to you how Martyria began. I just need to go grab my phone. Hold on.
Do it.
Good shit. This is the good shit.
Do you think he'll tell us the same thing for Weird Card too?
So in August of 2020, I had not been DMing that long. Like I had been DMing on and off for a couple of years, mostly for students. But I had at that point run a campaign that was basically just copying a podcast that I had listened to. And so I was camping in the Smoky Mountains, and there were 5 of us, and one of the people said, "Ooh, we should play D&D. Nick, you should DM it." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so I spent 30 minutes coming up with, instead of doing the normal thing, I'm like, here's going to be a wacky little one shot. I just, for some reason, wrote God lore. And so this is what I wrote on August 9th, 2020. In the unreckonable past, the immortal forebears created for themselves the world of Euphorium from the primordial void. Bored and vain beings that they were, they soon desired to be worshipped and revered, and thus shaped the mortal races of the world. From the stars, they plucked the dust that they wove into elves. From hard stone, they chiseled dwarves and mountain folk. From the coals of great fires, they forged orcs and goblins. From tree branches, they carved gnomes and dryads. From plots of sod, they sprouted halflings. From mud and clay, they sculpted humans. In each creation, they breathed the spark of life and intelligence. For millennia, forebears and mortals existed in peace and prosperity as the latter proliferated, filling the world with temples, shrines, and monuments. But a schism grew between the forebears. So you see there's a lot of overlap there, at the very least. There were the pedagogues, thought it imperative to guide mortals directly, aiding them in their endeavors. The almighty Halsup, bringer of light and goodness, led them. Others soon stood in utter antithesis. They became known as the instigators and the ruthless Paelor. See, I think I'd heard Pelor or Paelor or whatever that god was, and I was like, that must have stuck in my head because I just added an extra vowel to it. Led them with vehemence and tenacity despite not being a god of evil. The third faction viewed the role of the forebears as one of non-intervention, allowing their mortal creations to make their own way. They were the arbiters led by just and logical Ulthanus, which was the original name, I guess, dedicated to maintaining balance and neutrality. The schism widened and swallowed Euphorium in a terrible war, yada yada, made the Etherlock, yada yada. Our story takes place on Euphorium's great continent 7,000 years after the fall of the forebears. Two forces jockeyed for the central seat of power, Glaris and the divine hand of Ironfall, and Romulan and the righteous path of Nisandria, because someone was driving a Nissan, so it's Nisandria. Each of you were a member of the righteous path. Some joined from the beginning, believing in the virtue of your leaders. Some were new recruits, desperate to find or escape yourself. Regardless of when and how you joined, you fought with Romulan, but he lost. You lost, and now you're on the wrong side of history, the villains in the eyes of the now unified great continent and the divine hand that rules it. Life for a former member of the righteous path is hard. Mistreatment is standard. Employment is scarce. It's a hard scrabble of life, but it's your life. And we didn't do anything with that. Instead, we all were like unicorns and reverse centaurs and stuff like that, because I don't know why I thought that would be good for a camping D&D game.
So you played BoJack Horseman instead?
Yeah, basically.
Basically.
Awesome. But in terms of like stories, very much so, I wanted to build a pantheon because I was like, I want to make my own gods, because I'm not going to read the millions of pages of lore on D&D Wiki. And so it's like, yeah, 7's a good number, and let's divide them into good, evil, and somewhere in between. I had just finished rewatching Legend of Korra, and they've got like this bustling city with all these gangs involved, and I think I'd also been watching Attack on Titan, and so there's a walled city, and I was like, oh, maybe there's something outside the walls that they don't know about, and so I think those subconsciously seeped into planning of the game, but I also knew that I wanted it to just take place in one location so that I could really build it out, because prior to that I had done the more traditional like world sprawling or continent sprawling campaign, which is fun because you get a lot of different locations, but it's hard to really truly populate a world on any sort of scale of verisimilitude. So that was ultimately, I think, where Martyria came to be. And the original spelling was not in the sense of martyr, it was spelled just differently. But then in this second go around, I was like, okay, well, it was a city created by people becoming martyrs, so it's Martyria. And then you all followed that path and became martyrs yourself.
Very nice.
Oops.
You didn't repeat history, you bettered history.
So you're saying we're better players than your other game?
You're better
No,
role
he's
players. I'll give you
saying
that.
we're better than the gods. We did it right this time.
We're basically gods, right?
No, we're
Yeah.
better than the gods. We are above the gods.
We are the 7th prime.
I have a question. Where did it go?
Okay.
Who would have been the most valuable NPC to use Speak with Dead on for information? Because I never got to do it, and I really wanted to do it multiple times.
So what level do you get Speak with Dead?
I think it...
'Cause I'm trying to think of like at what point in the game.
So I had it midway through. Midway through 2.0.
Oh, okay. So
But that's only because my leveling, I leveled.
yeah, because
like,
of your multi-class.
but I did my multi-class, not min-max. I did it based on storyline.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, by that point, so you're talking like session like 30-ish?
I'm talking about it was right prior to Rafe and Enyo reveal.
Ooh, then I mean you would have that would have certainly revealed that. But if you had used it when you were in Bright Harbor, like that first time, or maybe it was the second time even, if you had talked to the remains of Metis or the remains of Caspian, you would have found out that was not them.
Okay.
But beyond that, I mean, you probably could have got more information out of Kendra, because that was cut short by her transformation. In thinking back, like with your theories of what's going on, like when all of that was happening, you were very much on the right idea there, that like you were essentially this, not a virus, but you were this anomaly in time, and as people were close to their death, then they, like that little bit of them from the other thread was able to leap over, and they became what they became.
Yeah.
You were the icky. And I think that was something that you had thrown about before. I think you had fully grasped what had happened with all of that. But other NPCs that died that you could have interrogated.
I guess,
that
was
you could have
there
killed and
anyone?
interrogated?
No, because you can use it on like any. It doesn't matter how long they've been dead.
Oh, that's true.
So, like, would there have been like anybody, maybe people who were dead prior to the game?
Oh,
Ooh, someone in the ruins, maybe?
yeah. I mean, if you had, like found, I didn't have like any sarcophagi in there, but if you had said like we are searching for, we're gonna find the remains of someone, then they would have been there. Like you would have found like enough. Like, what do you need? Like just
A skull.
you need a skull. Then yeah, then you would have found that, and you would have been able to ask, and you would have found out more information then, I guess, about the 18 and so forth, and the making of the Arcanexes.
So in a similar vein, who was the most underutilized NPC, and how might they have impacted the story if the party had interacted with them more?
Kivas. Like if you had hunted him down the first time that Enyo said that, I'm gonna go find Kivas. I just think you would have known, like if you had played your cards right, you could have known more about who the Herald was much sooner and done with that information whatever you were going to do. But otherwise, yeah, like, and you already talked about like kind of Misty missing out on stuff with her. She might have been more amenable to sticking around had you not, like, there been this big brawl in her tavern, and then there's like this dead dude who's in front of her and all that stuff, and overwhelming her with all this crazy shit, and then this Knight of Juris transforming into this eldritch abomination.
Yeah, I might not have stuck around too.
Yeah, especially if I have a young kid, I'm getting the hell out of there.
That's fair. I think at that point we kind of was like, yeah, that's valid. She can run away.
Yeah, and you had mentioned like, oh, we should go find Misty, but then never came back to it. So it's like, well, then she's off doing her thing.
Was there at any point in the game a moment where you were worried about the party, like about a choice that the party was about to make, or conflict within the party?
Oh, I thought Woe was gonna leave potentially after, again, Affinity's death. But beyond that, I didn't think that Scott was ever actually going to kill you all, and I didn't want to like force him to do that in any way. I thought, and Ruby, and you can speak to this, Enyo almost did walk away.
No, yeah. I mentioned that to them earlier. That if it hadn't, worked out the way it was, and you actually would have probably really walked away and straight into the Herald's and Change's party without any issues. Not that way, you two would just
Straight into the Herald's open arms.
His embrace.
Mm.
His dark, mysterious.
And truthfully, if it had been intentional, I might have played it out to where she swiped the Arcanex from Raven and took it with her along with that. If that was really how I was going to play it. But at the time, I was trying to play it in a way that would allow her just to make that decision if it was necessary. I wasn't fully committed, I guess is a better way to say it.
Kind of same question, but up until the conversation with Death where she said it was a bad idea, Sitsu was very set on betraying the party for a while. Was actively working on it.
But what was Sitsu going to do to betray the party?
Was gonna force the lock open
Oh, okay.
and bring the primes in.
How
They were
do
trying to close it.
how do you feel, Nick, about like PvP situations, and how would you handle that if something happened where it was obvious that like these characters are not going to get along? It's going to be like a death situation that will end this.
Well, and so I guess another one of those moments was when you had to decide, are you going back or beyond, and that was a moment where it definitely could have gone that C2 and Alan were like, no, we're out of here. In which case, I would have had to have some conversations with you, Matilda, of how we want to play that out. Does that mean just like C2 is off into the sunset and we don't know the resolution of this? Because I wouldn't want to do the two campaigns at once, but it might have been like we alternate, like we at least explore some like a 2 or 3 shot with you all adopting new characters to that accompany Sitsu and Alan beyond this other door. But I think in all of those moments we came close to it, and with Enyo going back into the ruins and Scott Rafen coming back in, it's like I think we did have a fracture of the party in there, and the Enyo's gone and Rafen's dead, but then it was you all kind of had to do the work of figuring out where are you going to go from here. Do you want to continue to pursue that character? So I think in terms of PvP, if it ever comes to a point where someone is actively like working in antithesis to the rest of the group, then like I told Ruby, this is like if Enyo is leaving and going to the Herald, then I have to take her over. Like that becomes an NPC now. So I think ultimately, without creating a whole bunch of very difficult, complicated, dual try stories going on at once, I don't know of a way to resolve that. So thank you all for not doing that. But if it happens in the next campaign, then well, we burn that bridge when we get to it.
How many
Scott, I know
questions
you
you
got
got?
more in there for us.
I do, but Matilda came off mic, so off mute. So she's got something. Go.
I unmuted to ask how many questions you had left.
I have 5, but I think we've danced around most of these. So
Okay.
what big plot lines did the party miss altogether? I feel like we've talked about that. What role did Misty's son have in all this?
So Misty's son, I know like you had theorized that he was what was in the Arcanex, which I kind of wanted you to think that because it made sense with the information you had at the time. But Misty Sun was really just the reason for why she left Les Chauffines, and she was only ever a part of Les Chauffines because Matilda created Les Chauffines, and I needed a way of bringing Sitsu, who, since Matilda missed the very first session of the campaign, into contact with the rest of them after they had had this moment at Misty's, like, why would Sitsu be going there? And so had to have that connection, and that was the most logical reason for me for why she would leave Les Chauffines, is because of something outside of their standards of conduct or of family or connection and so forth. So him being back the second time around was also just a way of early on introducing that like things are different this time. But he's just a kid who was loved by his mom.
I think we've really done this too, which is, were there any close calls that would have changed the course of the campaign significantly?
I mean, Cyril very nearly died in the ruins the first time. The ruins were just a death trap.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
He was saved by a nat 20, and at that point in the game, I don't know what. I think Cyril would have just stayed dead because you were low enough level. Alex was already kind of like, I'm not so sure about Cyril. I think I might want to have someone darker to fit with the rest of the crew, but stuck with it.
Yeah, we wouldn't have had any way to bring him back.
No, especially because like resurrection magic was not something really available in the city. Like,
Yeah.
Woe casting Revivify was about the extent of what would have been possible in Martyria, as like true resurrection wasn't a thing. So that was certainly a close call. Beyond that, I think the decisions to go left or right, that you went left or you went right, the things we've talked about, getting on the corpse barge instead of looking for the shortcut, and the what else? I think there was a scenario where you could have had a harder time in the garrison when everybody was dying, and up on the surface when the dead rose against you, but you all fought valiantly there. But I could have had.
I see Ruby's eye twitching with that.
When Ruby was initially shit-talking the Herald on your return when you found Orange, like that, like the Herald like threw no punches.
I loved shit talking the Herald. I'm not gonna lie. That was one thing
yeah.
that, like, as a player, I continually, and I was trying to do it in a way that would make Snatch Matilda like think of another plan. Like, I was trying to stall for time the majority of the time.
Yeah.
So for me, it was all just bullshit. Like, I didn't actually care about anything the Herald said. I was literally just trying to like keep him there and keep him talking, and yeah, it didn't work in my favor because I don't think they came up with anything.
We didn't have any other plans.
Yeah,
Keeping Enyo alive became the plan.
Yeah.
Put a bell.
I don't know
on her.
why it turned into that, but it turned into that quite often.
I wonder why.
I have a question for everybody. Okay,
Ooh.
so excluding the NPCs who ran with our party, if you were to pick an NPC from Martyria to play as a player character, who would it be? My personal pick, I think, would be Rosemont, just because I fucking love her shop.
The shopkeeper?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That'd
The
be a fun
hoarder shopkeeper. Yeah, it tracks.
This is totally random, but do you guys remember the librarian?
Oh my god, the librarian who would not let Enyo
Yeah,
take anything.
Yeah, the really cranky, like fuck off librarian. Like you're not doing anything. That was who I would want to play.
That
So
would
could
be
so
a fun character who's
so
just
mean
like
and just
cranky
rude.
all the time.
just like just go away. Yeah, all the time.
I want to write an entire backstory and play a whole campaign as a goblin who sells bags of rocks.
Hey, I got really good news for you about the one shots Ruby does.
We could have a goblin. I don't. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
They'll
if you
fit
really want
right
that.
in.
They'll fit right in.
Side note, I saw this in my notes when I was flipping through. At one point, Nick, there was an old lady who was like, but she looked at Wraithen. This was, I think, episode 25, and she said, "The devil walks among us," while she was looking at Wraithen. What was that about? Anything?
Oh yeah, I mean like Rafen's old armor of conquest when he, was but she would have been like old enough to recognize it for what it was. Because the Reclaimers, that was another avenue that if y'all had like followed up on those two that had like come in when the Boars attacked, like you would have learned more about Beyond the Wall earlier before getting on a barge and getting your shit rocked. But like the Reclaimers used to just be a branch of the Mariners League, and so that and Rafen had Scott had told me that like maybe people might even recognize Rafen even though he doesn't know who he is, but know the reputation of this terror beyond the wall, and we didn't come back to it because Rafen's story just seemed to be going in other directions and prioritizing other things. But that was really an initial seed for that possibility.
I think it would have been fun to play Lyle's cocky archaeology nemesis.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Affinity.
I
No.
thought she was gonna say
No.
Affinity too, but you're talking about the Pounce that like
The blonde
The blonde
guy.
dude.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I always called him a Pounce.
I
The
like
glove
how-
slapper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how we both used a visual cue to identify a mostly theater of the mind character.
He had a token.
Very briefly. And then he got
Yeah.
strung up on a flagpole.
Oh yeah. I think for me, I don't know, maybe someone like Falco, who is a little bit above a grunt in the Syndicate or the Reapers, that you could kind of like, win over to your side and becomes part of the party.
Drug dealer, middle management.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, tell us some occasions where you were frustrated with the party.
Wasn't experiencing much frustration from you all. The only time that I ever felt even like a hint of it was where you're like, yeah, but is there really anything here? Like what if I really look? Like, is there any more to this that you can give me? Like, God, didn't I give you enough? Damn it!
We just like the lore.
Yeah.
So even some of the over-analysis before any action, like some of those occasions where
That's D&D for you. Like,
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think there's a way to eliminate that. And really, all of them were warranted in that, yes, you'd been burned in the past, or it was a high pressure situation, so it made sense that you wanted to be certain with what you were doing.
Yeah, I think there was no lack of consequences for choices that were made. And I think that created kind of an atmosphere of, we better really think about this before we do
Yeah.
it. So
I think it made it like where we weren't just like hot shotting everything, because we actually genuinely cared about our characters. We cared about each other's characters and what repercussions could happen based on our own decisions with someone else's storyline.
It added a lot of gravitas to every
Well-
single decision.
Especially when we know that we have like maybe 2 months left of play and we've been playing this character for 10 months. And then it's like, do I really want to have to roll up a character for 4 sessions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or do I want to be the idiot who does something that costs somebody else
Right.
their character for these
Mm.
last 4 sessions?
Yes.
So something that if you want, I can share with you. When you all were making your deals with change, dying was still very much a possibility. And so I had prepared for everybody, like, what change would say to you as you died. Do you want to hear?
Yes,
Yes?
I would love this emotional destroying cookie.
Residual emotional trauma.
Especially when, because like you had posted that, like the clip of Nick yelling, basically. So it was
We
more
have
of that.
so many clips that we could do of just Nick yelling and all of us going, oh.
The way I had to do so many edits because there were so many good ones that I really wanted to use, but Nick was yelling so loudly that his mic consistently cut out.
Popped it. So this was Ruby's for Enyo. I guess I can do the voice too. Why not? You have made your decision, and I can respect that. Credit where credit is due. Your commitment and loyalty are admirable, if foolish. On that note, is there anyone you would like to say goodbye to? And regardless of what Ruby or Enyo would have said, my response would have been, well, did Affinity have that chance? Did Brees Markin, Caspian, any of the countless men and women you have slain? Then what makes you so special? You foolish, petulant, obstinate little girl. You had a lifetime of opportunity to say and do anything, everything, but you have erased all opportunity. There is no fanfare, no send-off, no goodbye. Nothing is all that awaits you.
Yay!
And Enyo would have just been dead.
Bye.
Let's see, for Woe,
By the way,
if you had
we've
just
tried
said,
to
nope.
adjust Nick's mic multiple times so that it won't crack out.
He's just got too much passion for the character.
Yeah, and I've adjusted it a few times.
Get a new mic.
It's not even that. It's your mic is good.
You
and
could
it works
match me and
fine.
Snatch.
It just it really picks up your voice well, and it'll go over into the red quite often. And it's not a bad thing because I turn you down to force it to stay, but even when I like turn it down, it'll pop up high because you're passionate when you speak in certain characters' voices. It's not a bad thing. We try our best to manage
Did it do
on
it
the
just
same
now
time.
as I did that?
So it's down. It's marked between the green and the yellow, but every time you speak, usually it'll go up into the yellow, regardless.
Okay.
It's not a big deal. I mean, I can
So
keep turning
Woe's-
it down, but
Yeah.
I think it's fine.
I can
think you just
look
keep
into
managing.
joining the mic crew.
Oh dear. Yeah. Oh, I mean,
So if Woe had rejected the offer and just let herself die, very well. There is a mode of life that exists between the both of you now, you and Lyle. Would you like to be with him one last time before the end? As with all of you, I was gonna like taunt you with. Do you want one little last thing? And bye, Ruby. The response would have been, I offered you an eternity with him for next to nothing. What makes you think I would give you even a second for free? You choose stasis over variation, death over life, damnation over salvation. You chose to slam the door shut, and now have the gall to ask me to hold it open a crack? Selfish and piteous. You know what awaits you, the consequence of your failure. When you see order, if you have mouth to speak and eyes to see, as all semblance of yourself is tortured out of you until you are a shriveling husk of an imp. Tell him you chose this. And that would have been Wozet.
Damn. She would have been a gunk sack.
She still would have had Gobblefunk.
I know, right?
And I'm just realizing I didn't write one for Sitsu. My note was, Sitsu won't betray Alan.
So true to character.
And because of that, I was like, Sitsu would make the deal. But if somehow it would have happened, I would have I'd have shit talked you for sure.
I'm sure.
I am going to miss gods moving into a godless world.
Yeah. It's gonna be.
But there will be other things to fill those.
But it's gonna
those
be like,
that void.
I feel like we've had a very direct campaign with gods,
And it's
which I'm not used to.
It's such an easy like icons to draw and symbols to pick at and morals to throw around that are tied to these concepts.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of gods, like with your backstories, both Woe and Sitsu in those first pages were like, yeah, my person is Maven. And I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. That works. Because this is, you had asked me, Snash, like, what would be like a lesser god, which I'm like, well, there really aren't. Or like which of the forebears would work. And I had said Maven because as like written on paper, that would fit them probably the most with like cannibalism. But then Sitsu's backstory was very much like Maven in this positive light. And so like, you know what, it's fine. We're going to roll with it because neither of them are really Maven anyway. But you can both think that they are.
Is Nick here?
Yeah.
Nick's here. You might be cutting out, Ruby.
You're cutting in and out a little bit.
Because Nick is no longer
I
on
don't
my screen.
see or hear
I'm
Ruby at
back.
Oh, now
And
she's
you
gone.
just dropped. Yeah.
She was here for a bit.
She was getting choppy.
Yeah.
Oh, she dropped on mine like 2 minutes ago when I said, "Oh, bye, Ruby."
Yeah, everybody else has been clear. Just Ruby.
So like I was really confused for that whole situation because for like 3 months I thought Maven was my person, and then I was like, oh, maybe Matilda's mixed up with what her god is like. Like maybe she doesn't realize that her god is this terrible, horrible person.
Turns out neither of us were worshiping me.
Yes. Because there was that moment after like Lemon died, and I was like, oh yeah, let me pray with you and see how this goes. And then I gotta talk to Order, and I was like, holy fuck, this is not fun.
Yeah, at first I was like, oh, well, shit. Well, do I go back and tell you, Snash, that well, no, let's pivot away from Maven because C2 or because Matilda called dibs, but I'm like, no, it'll work. It makes sense anyway. So, and then I was like you had like hinted at some things like, oh, wait, but who is it that you, Maven? Interesting. But in that role playing, but then we never really like got like it came to a head where like, no, my person is Maven. No, mine is.
I was trying to figure out who Woe's like patron was within the forebears, and for a long time I thought it was Taro.
Yes, and that's what made me so confused too, because then I was like, who the fuck is this person?
None of them.
None of them. It's a whole nother set, which made it even more confusing. Yeah.
Sorry I had to lie to you so much.
Well, I
That's good job.
started putting it together when there was the talk of the champion, and then I think it was referred to Woe at some point of being like a champion of some sort. So I was like, oh, okay. Who is this? They must like whoever's pulling these strings has to be on the same level. Yeah.
Yeah. You're a
This
pretty
is-
bright bunch.
This is more of a player question, I guess, and it sucks that we dropped off, but do you want to talk about what your backup was if Change had not made a deal?
That's really just for you, Smash.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't.
Rafen, you made a backup character,
I did.
didn't you, when you died in the temple briefly?
No,
Did you have a plan for a backup?
we pretty quickly had a plan for a rescue.
Okay.
Because you all like stayed up after that, right? And like hashed things out for a good while, from the sound of it.
The next day, we were talking in text a lot.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I made so Cornflower was existing. I've had her. I've played her. But I was like she would fit in well with the beast races outside the walls. I also I was also playing around with a smut cleric just because that was in conversation. But then I was like, if I have two characters who are both like smut based, what is everybody gonna think about me?
Accurate thoughts.
That you got brought into this campaign from a smut Discord.
Yeah. I really didn't want to play another character. I really did not want to play another character because that was like right at the time where I was like, I really like this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you feel, Rafen or Scott, when Rafen died? Like how how before we started having that conversation the next day in the group chat, how did you feel about the aspect of creating another character?
I was okay with it. I mean, I hadn't really, when you think about it, Rafen had only been with the party for less than a week of game time, so it wasn't like the party was so invested in Rafen. You know, it's always tough to see a character go when you spend so much time building them up, even in your own head, even if it hasn't manifested in game. But at the same time, these are characters, and there is a risk of death. So I've had characters die in other campaigns, and you just sort of go on, right? It's a little bit, quite honestly, the end of Martyria feels like a character death, and now it's time to roll up the new characters. So you get over it by having the next one to move to. So would have been okay. I didn't love the way he died, to be honest. You know, he died because not the mechanics of it, but the fact that I almost felt like he was forced into that position. That it was like Enyo being Enyo, running off into danger. I've created this connection now with a relation, and he's a paladin with an oath, right? So he's got to go chasing after her. He was actually the first one out and then turned around and went back. So I was like, fucking A, he was totally safe. And now I feel like I'm forced into sacrificing the character. So I didn't love that aspect of it, but it fit the role, it fit the character.
Did you have something ever prepped in like the place of Rafen in case something happened?
It was such a frantic campaign. Like, it's certainly the point where we were at that. Like, how do you even introduce another new character in at that stage? So,
right. Which is also why I was so open to let's do whatever wacky harebrained scheme you want to bring Rafen back. When you're like, okay, like describe the rebel to me. Like, can he stand? I'm like, no, but like,
You're like,
Maybe-
yeah, Gobblefunk could get in there. I don't
Maybe
fucking
there's
care.
like it fell almost like a little lean-to above him, so there's enough space for him to not be like totally crushed by the rubble.
Yeah. And of course, Nick was,
Not just
but he's not
tank.
going to come out whole. Oh my gosh.
Yep,
There we go.
he's fractured.
You had to
But
give
not all.
Gobblefunk a snack first.
Oh yeah, of course.
Well, I will say, I think, Nick, correct me, but I think the eye was my idea.
It was your idea, because
Yeah.
I was like very heavily insinuating that it was going to be a limb, and you're like, okay, that's going to suck. But also, can we do one more? What about an
Can
eye?
we add?
Well, I was sort of secretly going to try to have him morph into a pirate. So, the missing
Yeah,
an eye,
Echo.
he was going to have a hook for a hand until the rod showed up, and then he wound up with that. And then he had a parrot as a familiar, and I was going to start slowly slipping like args into the conversation just to see who named it first. But yeah, didn't quite get there.
I do have one question. My husband only sent me one today, but he
Wow.
wants to know how
Does
much
he even love you?
funk could a Gobblefunk funk if a Gobblefunk could gobble funk.
Oof.
How much funk could Gobblefunk gobble if he could gobble funk?
All of it. I mean, I think a
How's that even a
Gobblefunk
question?
would gobble all the funk. He is the funk.
That
Ooh,
means
do you
he's-
remember what were the alternate names you were considering for Gobblefunk?
I don't remember.
Because I think
I-
you had sent me like 3 potentials, and then
wonder
I
if
didn't
it's in
know
my notes.
until like I think the night of or before, like what
Of
his
what
name
I
was going to
picked.
be.
So there were other personalities for Gobblefunk too.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Oh. No. That's not right. When did we start this game?
November of last year.
Yep.
It's been a minute.
I wonder.
I wonder.
I wonder if I wrote it down and
You definitely sent it to me in Discord, so I'm gonna search for the earliest mention of Gobblefunk.
I had I usually
Ooh,
write stuff in there.
these are the 3 names that you sent me: Gobblefunk, Gout, Phil from Legal.
Oh yes, because those were the like personalities. Because had I gone with like Phil from Legal, it would have been like an office cleric
Yeah.
type personality. I really like Gobblefunk though. Gout actually was that no, this wasn't this group. It was another group that I ended up using that name as a one-shot character. Yeah, she was a big strong lady.
Nice.
Big strong lady.
Nice. I'm down to my last question, Nick.
Wow. Yes or no?
So, how often did you secretly save the party from its own stupidity or bad rolls?
Secretly save the party?
Benevolent DM
Uh,
style, like make sure something was there to help us through.
I would say the one time where I like absolutely pulled punches was when you all abandoned Enyo at the Sepulchre of the Night Queen. Like there was a whole boss fight after you all killed your shadow selves that it's like no, there's 0% chance that that Enyo survives that. So but you leaving, I guess that surprised me. I wasn't accounting for you all trying to get out of there. So that was, I think, the one moment that I can think of that I'm like, yeah. I altered on the fly and pulled those punches because otherwise, 100% fatality rate for Ruby. But beyond that, I don't think I had to save you because you all were like really capable and had a lot of tricks up your sleeve, and even when you did die, you found ways to get each other back.
That's it. I'm out of
That's
questions.
all the questions.
Wow, Scott, did you not prepare anything at all? Come
I
on, man.
know. I'm sorry. I didn't really think about this at all.
I guess a question for you all is, what will you look back on most fondly from this campaign? It can be a moment, a place, a character, a situation, a feeling, anything.
Crying over other people's characters. Like, especially the last session, like, the emotion, it was crazy the amount of emotion I would feel knowing how important an individual was to a character. Like, introducing Cyril to Ruby, or back to Enyo,
God,
done.
that
I
killed
was
me.
fucking
Yeah.
like just tears down my, because I was like, that is so mean, Nick. That is
I know,
so
right?
mean.
But it had to be.
I genuinely did not expect Cyril to be one of the, like, as soon as we started seeing the shades or whatever, like, did not expect Cyril to come back. That was surprising.
I would definitely say feeling emotion for my character on this level is definitely new. Like, I've had personal feelings towards characters before, but to be so emotionally invested in a character to this level is new for me. Taking that amount of emotion and feeling that for Sitsu, Enyo, Rafen, in every moment that they had like a heavy moment was incredible. And I loved it so much.
Just
Love that you
how
loved it.
absolutely and completely you bought into and worked with and allowed us to create this story that we wanted to within this world you had. You let us build in these characters to play with and play out and create these relationships with our own character, between each other and with these NPCs, and you just leaned into it so hard. And it allowed for that level of, like, we joke about the emotional trauma all the time, but it allowed for that level of impact and that, like, genuine, like, oh no, Nick actually isn't going to pull punches when it comes to this, and we know he's not going to.
Yeah, and that's one of the benefits of letting you come back to life, is then I could continue to
Torment
the
and
knife.
torture. Yeah, I think I have similar feelings to the other two in that, you know, for me, this was one of the best narratively told D&D campaigns I've ever played, and that's, you know, I've been playing the game for a long time, so it speaks volumes to the masterfulness in which you've handled all of this, especially, and I think you were away dealing with an apartment falling down or something when I mentioned it earlier, but this is a campaign that has breathed in between the sessions. Like, we have lived these characters well beyond the Wednesday nights that we get together.
Oh, yeah.
And that has been a real joy of being involved in this group, right? Not just for your storytelling, but for all of the camaraderie that I've had with my fellow players here in trying to figure you out, Nick, and the story and all that. There's been so much Nick psychology talk, you know.
Oh gosh.
Oh yeah, he wouldn't do that, or would he? I don't know.
But just
That's
like
sick.
I
bastard.
like, it's like, what's the worst that could come out of this situation? He might do that. Just
would he do that? He might do that. And just being so fully entrenched in this collaborative story with you that it took, even you know, in the last session, yes, where we were expecting it, but even throughout, all it would take would be like one sentence from this character related to our backstory for me to feel that, like, throat tightening, like, oh god, like, start crying, just like, oh god, okay, fuck, I'm actually genuinely
My nose
emotional about
hurt.
this.
Ugh.
Like, I've played played a lot of D&D, and I've been really attached to characters before, but never such a visceral level of like reaction to what is happening in the story in the moment with these characters.
Well, thank you all very much. Those are the things that I'll take away from this too. I mean, this campaign was a lot of work in between sessions. Like as all of the talking that you all were doing, I was doing that with myself. Like all of
Just
the
Nick sitting in his office with Gobblefunk voice going.
I was just gonna say I want to hear the personal conversations with all the different voices.
So I don't do that. I mean, I do constantly like slip into voices when I'm just going about my day. Sometimes even when I'm teaching, but listen here, you little shits. No, I wish I could. But it was always like the just a very rewarding puzzle. I've always loved puzzles and putting things together and stories, and so the challenges you all threw me with your characters and their decisions and all of that was so much fun. So I think the experience of a DM is inherently different from the experience of a player, because so much of the work is solitary, but I didn't feel alone in the work that I did, in that you all were so collaborative in how the story came to be. It was fun to react and try to be proactive, but fail in being proactive to all of your antics.
And the final question I feel like we need to answer: do vampires poop?
Oh. Only when they stop being a vampire, and it is
Days,
not
weeks,
good.
Years.
All right. Well, seems like as natural a place as any to call it a night, to call it a shift.
It's the
Also
official goodbye, Martyria.
To say so long.
It also seems very apropos that Ruby ran away.
Oh my god,
Right?
She's so mean. She's going to stab you.
Just a little.
Is there any shot that we do one shots in Martyria?
If we did, I would love for one of you to run it.
Oh yes, yes.
Are you gonna play Gobblefunk?
Or if we did, I don't even
Let
know if
Nick
it would
play
be.
his own character.
Yeah.
Even know if it would be like, or you mean specifically like one shots in Martyria as these characters?
Or just
No.
just using Martyria like as a background. Like I don't know, we play a one shot in the fighting ring or something, like...
Yeah, I think we could absolutely. I mean, we could also revisit Martyria like in earlier days. It might be like it would be a smaller scale campaign, probably not like this like cosmic world-ending, universe-ending sort of
not
story.
Playing
but
the Forebears.
Pre-ending in the schism.
It could be that. I would have to imagine what tangibly was that.
Woe and I'll have
like.
to fight it out over Maven.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would say that the door is closed but not locked on Martyria.
It's locked. The lock is breaking.
The accord grows thin.
Well, thank you, Nick. This was
thank you, Scott.
a great pleasure.
And you, Matilda, and you, Snash, and
Absolutely.
you, Ruby,
And
out
you,
there.
Ruby, we know you're there.
We
We
know
love
you're
you.
here. You're still
And you,
here.
winners, for tuning in and
Hell yeah, winners. We've,
jumping
like,
along.
God
Tripled
bless
our
listening to
size
our antics for
in
a
the
year
last
now.
year.
Oh yeah, I think we've found what we are.
Our us and our 3 viewers.
That's right.
Hell yeah, baby.
Nice.
Tune in
Love you all.
next week for
Oh,
creation of a world.
World building.
Yeah. We're going to build a world. It's already been, like sketched out, but time to add some meat to the bones.
hell yeah.
All right. See you next week, everybody.
As Ruby would say bye, stream.
Bye,
Bye,
stream.
Bye,
Bye.
stream.
Put on a show when banners rise so bright and bold. The whole town knows that soon a juicy story will unfold. If ever life gets boring and you need to even the score, simply head on down to the Crimson Crows and knock upon the front door. Come up with a quest to try their hand, it doesn't matter the task. They'll save the day but in their own way. Hold your breath when they ask for pay. No black and white, just a shade of gray. It's sure a kick in the ass. The crimson crows, while a guild of nobility, they sure put on a show. When banners rise of red and gold, the whole town knows that soon a juicy story will unfold. Certainly they've seen it all, seen great triumph, seen great fall, plenty gold to deck a hall, plenty shiners from a brawl. But outside their grand story, they sure are a menagerie. Their origin a mystery. Just how did they come to be? The crimson crows, while a guild of nobility, they sure put on a show. When banners rise of red and gold, the whole town knows that soon a juicy story will unfold. The crimson crows, while a guild of nobility, they sure put on a show. When banners rise of red and gold, the whole town knows that soon a juicy story will unfold. The crimson crows, while a guild of nobility, they sure put on a show. When banners rise of red and gold, the whole town knows that soon a juicy story will unfold. The crimson crows. Many moon cycles past, traveled with my lass. She was fair as an evening spring. We walked unending roads in search of hidden tropes for a ruby to forge in a ring. In the cave tucked away, there were tales of what laid where a king once hid all that shine. And in hopes of such a find, running on borrowed time, we pushed onward, my lass and I. As we